It's a long process.
Here, listen to this. I'm gonna make a really bold statement right now. This is a little bit of a stretch, but if the Chargers still were in San Diego, okay, so turn back the clock 9 years,
right?
And if the Chargers were in the Super Bowl, guess where we'd start the show today?
We're talking Chargers for 2 straight weeks.
We could talk about it for 4 hours a day for 2 straight weeks if the Chargers reside in San Diego and make the Super Bowl. I feel like we have 4 hours times 10 shows the next 2 weeks, right? We have so much time to get to the Super Bowl, and we will. Will Brinson's going to join us coming up at 4:30. Spoiler alert: Patriots Seahawks. If you missed it, if you haven't on tape,
big shocker.
It's going to be Patriots and Seahawks. It should be a good game, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. By the way, he's back in 2026. I don't know if that's news or not, but Kevin Acee is back, which is exciting, I think, for us and our listeners. And he broke the story this weekend, Sammy, that Yu Darvish was set to retire. Now, he didn't say he had retired. He said he was, poised to retire. The wheels in motion for retirement. So let me just hear the semantics of it. Kevin basically reports, and he'll join us at 3, that Darvish intends. Again, he used the word intends. He didn't say he did. He intends to walk away from 3 years, $43 million. Massive potentially for the Padres, who have to complete the roster now, are exploring a sale. It gives them an opportunity to maybe go address some of these needs that we've been talking about. Now, Darvish is then quoted later in the article, and I think this is semantics between Darvish, his agent, the players union, kind of like, let's back up for a second. Let's slow this down for a moment. He's then quoted as saying, you may have seen an article, and although I am leaning towards voiding the contract, there's still a lot that has to be talked over with the Padres, so the finer details are yet to be decided. Also, I will not be announcing my retirement yet. Right now, I'm fully focused on my rehab for my elbow. And if I get to a point where I can throw again, I'll start from scratch again to compete. If once I get to that point, I feel I can't do that, I will announce my retirement. What do you make of this? Again, Kevin, with the breaking news story, it's walked back a little bit by Yu Darvish's representation, but I still think at the end of the day, the Padres are going to free up some money thanks to Yu Darvish. Doesn't have to do this.
It's a big deal.
This is something to really benefit the organization. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for this. But this was something we've talked about for months on end, and it seems like it might be coming to fruition.
Well, I totally agree with you with the semantics part. This feels a lot like the agent was like, whoa. We still want a little bit of maybe not. We're not voiding the entire contract.
Well, slow down.
Slow down. I still got a commission to get. All right. So exactly. Everyone can relax. I think that was a very, well-worded tweet back article. But yes, I think that we're headed here. Kevin Acee is obviously a very legitimate reporter who knows what he's doing. And if this were to happen, if he were to avoid all this money, I mean, to be fair to the Padres, and I've been very critical at times with the lack of spending and things like that. But to be fair to him, last season, a major problem with it was Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish, your 2 highest paid pitchers, weren't pitching. And Yu Darvish was for a portion of the year, but then was hurt for a lot of the year and then came back, was never really his full self. And then Joe Musgrove was out for the full season. So heading into this year where Joe Musgrove's back, if Yu Darvish has all that money coming back and he's still making that big contract in rehabbing, out for the full season, maybe be able to come back at the very end, who knows? But this is a big deal because if they were already looking at, per the report last week, maybe in that $8 to $10 million range, looking at guys like Verlander, could this step you up into a Framber Valdez? I don't know. This is a total big idea, and that's obviously that would be the Padres going big game hunting, and the Padres haven't shown a big aptitude to do that. But freeing up money, if they're going to repurpose it, the Padres could go get a legit starting pitcher here and have a big time 4 in their rotation.
Here's the thing. I'm all for big game hunting, but I'm also all for hunting. Like
right.
They're not even out there like looking for, this is a terrible analogy, but like they're not even out, they're not hunting right now. Like they're just kind of at home, waiting. And I do think a reason why they've been slow is this is a big part of the offseason. This would, in theory, free up $15 million for right now, 2026. That $43 million is a little bit of a confusing number. It's like, oh my gosh, they have $43 million. Maybe they could go spend $30 million.
Right, that's over years.
That's over 3 years. The average number in there, I think it's 14.33. I believe he's owed 15 in this 1 year. To your point, I would imagine there's some type of buyout negotiated clause. Maybe he's working in the front office. There's no way he's just all 43 is going away. Maybe he's going to get a couple of it, and then he's got a position in the front office for a few more. And I don't know. I mean, now I'm speculating, obviously. I don't know. But I do know this. If the Padres have $15 million more to work with this offseason, that could be the difference between them making the postseason or missing the postseason.
100%.
That could be the difference between them making a run in the postseason or not. You threw out like a name like, initially Justin Verlander. We've talked about Nick Martinez. There are bigger names. I just saw a list. I think I screen grabbed the tweet of players that are still available with spring training getting underway in a couple of weeks. And there are significant players available, whether it's Framber Valdez, Zach Gallen, Chris Bassett, Lucas Giolito, Nick Martinez, Verlander. I mean, there's a lot of names out there.
All impact players.
But it's like you can only sign them if you have the resources and the funds to do it. Maybe this is the mechanism to allow AJ Preller to bring one of these players in, which I think helps to complete the roster.
Well, and one thing, this isn't sitting here revisionist history, it would have been different, but a big loss of that when the Padres lost to the Dodgers a couple years ago was when Musgrove got hurt right before that series.
Huge.
That was a huge loss, because that's why the Padres were such a sexy upset pick. Was like, if you looked at the bullpen was good,
That's a great point,
and they had starters to go along to somewhat match the Dodgers, where you could go piece by piece. If Musgrove was pushing everyone down, your game 4 starter would have been someone else. Who knows if it goes differently? We'll never know. But Joe Musgrove right now is the number 3 you're thinking. At least through the season, you don't want him throwing bulk innings and messing up his arm. You're looking for the same kind of repeat season from Nick Pivetta, and hopefully Michael King can have a fully healthy season and get underway. If the Padres are able to sign somebody like that, and Musgrove is your 4 for most of the season, and then assuming best case scenario he's healthy going into the postseason, again assuming they make it, that's a pretty deadly little 4 you got there that you could throw out there. I think with 3 right now, you're still going to be relying on your Randy Vasquez's, your guys like that, where, with all due respect, they can get you some wins in June. Are they doing that in October? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. And the thing with Musgrove, we'll actually hear from him coming up in about 10 minutes. Marty Caswell caught up with him with the media, I think, at an event in San Diego where they opened a new Miracle League field that supports children with disabilities. So we'll hear from Joe Musgrove coming up. But Musgrove, you'll hear it directly from him. But he went down this path of, I need to be fully available for this team in October. Now, unlike the Dodgers, they need to get to October, but they have proven by and large they have a manner in which they can get there. They've gotten there a good amount the last 6 years, 4 times in the last 6 years. So, yeah, you're going to count on him in the regular season. But if they need to skip a turn in the rotation to keep his innings down, if they need to limit his pitches to, I'm making it up, 90, not 100 for a period of time to keep his innings down, I think they're going to do that because October is what matters. And to your point in 2024, where we sometimes lose sight of it all, we're always like, oh, the Padres didn't score, 24 consecutive innings. The offense went silent, which is true. But they were never in game 4 because Dylan Cease started and was ineffective.
Mookie had that leadoff home or second batter home run.
Exactly. So it's like, we'll never know. I mean, Joe Musgrove could have pitched that game fully healthy and could have allowed 7 runs, or he could have thrown a no-hitter. We'll never know. You can't throw a no-hitter if your team doesn't score, though. But I do think it's a big part of the story that doesn't get discussed. The fact that the Dylan Cease short turnaround didn't give the Padres a legitimate chance to win game 4. And if they would have had Joe Musgrove, who knows what happens from that point
right forward. It always leaves Padre fans going, what if? Because what if you understood the thought process, you're trying to close it out at Petco Park, you don't want to send it back up to the ravine, but if Dylan Cease had another couple days of rest in game 5, obviously we've talked about that for the last couple of years, but you do wonder if Joe Musgrove's there. You see these teams that go deep in the postseason, even the Diamondbacks a few years ago, like Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly they didn't come out of nowhere, but that team came out of nowhere because you kind of were allowing for Corbin Carroll, Marte, and these guys to get it going. And then you had 2 pitchers in the postseason that were just nails. And Joe Musgrove can be that kind of pitcher. He can be that pitcher that people look at that could be in the MVP of a series. So again, the Padres, this is why it's like they're right there to really make an impact on the starting rotation. They do have to add someone else. And maybe this is the catalyst that does that with Yu Darvish giving his money back. Again, we're kind of looking at everything with the glass half full, but hopefully that's the direction that they're headed in.
Yeah, it's like I remember the day we found out, I think it was in November, we found out Darvish was going to have surgery. And at that point, I remember the moment I found it out, I tweeted something out. I'm like, oh, I just figured he was going to retire. And then people were like, what? Like, you wouldn't walk away from $45 million. Why should he? And understandable take. It is true. I mean, if you and I were owed hundreds of thousands of dollars on your agreement, why would you walk away from it? You need it to support yourself and family. Like it's a sizable amount of money. But sometimes sports are a little different. There's other factors at play, specifically with Yu Darvish. And again, it's like nobody can relate to the situation he's in. He's made $200 million plus in his career. None of us are ever making $200 million plus. So yeah, walking away from $43 million for someone like you or me or our listeners is insane to even consider. Why would you ever do it? But he's not going to be on the street. I think he's got generational wealth. I think he can support
he's gotten
himself,
big contracts before.
and he's going to work in baseball the remainder of his career if he so chooses. And he could probably be paid relatively handsomely, not making $15 million a year, but his financial future is secure. So this is where, I mean, Darvish to me is going to get the most credit in the whole conversation if and when this gets finalized. He didn't have to do this. It sounds like he's going to do it. And what he's doing is giving the organization a chance to win at the highest level.
Well, and by all reports, it seems like Yu Darvish is a good dude. I don't know him, but all reports, people really love him as clubhouse guy. If you're that mindset of that guy, if you're the mindset of a guy that's eating up all this money, and the team is close, the team is a perennial playoff team. They're constantly kind of on the cut line, but they're not in the Dodger territory, or maybe the Mets going into next year, one of those teams. If you're one of the reasons why, because you're eating up that much money with an organization that we know is looking for a sale, potential lockout coming, so there's a lot hindering them getting big contracts and dishing out a bunch of money. If you're Yu Darvish and you made a bunch of money in your career, would you rather see the Padres have success and give up some money? Or, I wouldn't blame the guy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and have revisionist history. If I was making $45 million, I'd probably sing a different tune as well if I was collecting that money. But it's a testament to Yu Darvish's character that he's even considering this when he certainly doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a lot of credit from me if and when this is finalized. I think ultimately it's probably his wish to say, listen, I'm not earning this. It's not right of me to hold the organization back, even if it is duly owed to me. I'm going to do what's quote unquote right. And I think that's probably where this is heading. We'll catch up with Kevin Acee at 3 p.m. He was the one that initially broke the story, our Padres Insider, back in 2026. I mentioned Joe Musgrove. Will he be good to go to start spring training? And what is the plan for 2026? You'll hear directly from Joe Musgrove. This came from Marty Caswell, and you're going to hear it coming up on the other side. We're here until 6, just underway. We do have Aztec tickets, not for Colorado State on Wednesday, but for a future game against Wyoming that's coming up February 3rd. So we have Aztec tickets to give away against Wyoming. And we also have San Diego Seals tickets to give away. So we've got Aztecs tickets. We have Seals tickets to give away. Stay with us. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right. Where are you, Sammy? Hold on. Stand by. All right, John Schaefer and Sammy Long with you right now on San Diego Sports 760. I mentioned the fact that Kevin Acee, our Padres Insider, is on the show today at 3. We also have Reese Dixon Waters, who surpassed 1,000 career points, started his career at USC, former 6th man of the year in the Pac-12, now finishing his career at San Diego State. Aztecs get the win they were looking for in Vegas. We'll talk to Reese Dixon Waters coming up at 3:30. Then our NFL Insider, Will Brinson from CBS Sports, joins us with more on, of course, the Super Bowl coming up at 4:30. So I want to hear from Joe Musgrove and react. Brent has this sound. This is from our dear friend Marty Caswell on social media. She was at this Miracle League event in San Diego in which the Padres participated. It looked like a wonderful event. And Marty got to catch up with both Eric Rupner and Joe Musgrove. This was Joe Musgrove on kind of what's ahead for him coming off Tommy John.
Normal progression. I haven't really been told what I can throw and what I can on certain days when I need rest. It's kind of up to me what my body needs, and I'm getting myself ready based on how I feel and what I know about myself.
So it's right to say that this is like any other season?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, I'm sure there are going to be limitations on the inning limit and how many pitches will let me go out of the gates, but I want to try to be as normal as possible, keeping in the back of my mind that I need to be fresh and able to throw in October. So if that means skipping a start here or there or pushing me back a few days or a couple days extra rest, like I'm already at peace with like having to do that if that means I get to throw in October. So I told Ruben I want to be as normal as possible, and I want to be this, project where it's super careful. Like, let me pitch. I'm honest with you. I know where I'm at in my career. I'm going to be smart about getting this right. So.
All right, so that was Joe Musgrove again at this Miracle League event over the weekend. Listen, Joe Musgrove is a terrific leader, a terrific pitcher when healthy, but you do need to make sure. I'm glad he said what he said, which is like, I know where I am at this point in my career. I think sometimes with Musgrove over parts of his Padres career, he tries to almost do too much, which you respect. It's not a bad trait. It's a lot better than the opposite. You don't do enough. He wants to be where he was, at his career best on March 27th. Now, that's not realistic. There's going to be some type of ramp up. There always is for pitchers coming off Tommy John. His benefit is he's 18 months removed because now you have the full season plus the off season. I think ultimately he's going to be more than fine. I think everyone should give him the grace of it'll take time. Not every start's going to be 7 innings, 2 or fewer runs. I'll give him the benefit of time. I want to see him healthy. And I agree with the overall point, which is like, listen, if I can have it all figured out and be fully healthy when the season is really going to be determined, September, October, that's the ideal scenario. So I'm trusting in Joe. I don't want to see him overdo it because I feel like there's times he has overdone it. And, again, to his point, at this point in your career, coming off Tommy John, slow and steady is going to win this thing. And I think he could be completely he could be a frontline guy come the second half of the year, but you can't force the issue from day one if you're Joe Musgrove.
Well, and so that's what we were talking about last segment about how crucial it is for them to go get another arm, and not a Verlander, not a guy who's 40 in his 40s and is not going to be a bulk starter again, because we're looking at best case scenario. We're looking at Pivetta, King, and Musgrove staying healthy all season. What we don't want to see happen is Pivetta or King get hurt. And then obviously, because Musgrove's just that talented, he's going to slide up into that number 2 spot. And then he is throwing that many innings, and he's starting way more games than the Padres would like him to do. This is why you'd like to have a plethora of pitchers that you really feel good about and can eat up a lot of the season. And then kind of like the Dodgers did last year, putting Blake Snell on ice, putting Glasnow on ice for a large part of the season. All of a sudden, 3 weeks for the postseason, Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow are magically healthy. Kind of be your secret weapon heading into October is that not that he's not going to be pitching, but you're bringing him along slowly. And then all of a sudden, here comes Joe Musgrove fully healthy, ready to go. You just want to make sure you have enough guys to where you're not sitting here in June. You're like, he's overworking what we wanted him to do, and we're only halfway through the season.
Yeah, it's interesting that like 2 of the true keys to the 2026 season could be both Yu Darvish, because of what we discussed earlier, because of his potential willingness to walk away from at least a portion, if not all of the remaining dollars. That's a huge potential win for the Padres and their overall success, as we talked about. And then Joe Musgrove, I think, has to play a big role. I mean, for the Padres to truly have that year that we're all hoping for, and I'm not even talking about like winning a World Series. I mean, every team wants to win the World Series. But saying just to have a year where you can once again, win 90+ games, firmly put yourself in the position, give yourself a shot. Think about last year. We didn't even know who was going to start the 3rd game of the postseason for the Padres. it ended up being Yu Darvish, who threw an inning plus, and then we saw Michael King, I think, for an inning in that game. But it was such an open-ended question. Go back to 2020 during the pandemic. Dinelson Lamet was banged up, and Mike Clevenger, and Craig Stammen started Game 3 of a playoff series in 2020 against the St. Louis Cardinals. They need to get to October, to your point with the Dodgers last year when they got healthier into October. Padres need to find a way to get to October with a healthy rotation. Again, easier said than done. It's not like, oh, if I was in charge, I'd have a healthy rotation. I mean, there's so many factors at play, right. But if they can get there with a healthy rotation, they'll give themselves a shot.
Well, remember last year how weird it was. So Yu Darvish in and out of the lineup, he wasn't going that many innings. Then he had Dylan Cease, who simply because of play, he was unbelievable the first 3 innings, and then he would get roughed up in the 4th or 5th inning. And the second time through, he was really a disaster for most of the season. Michael King, because of his injuries, were not going super deep in games. So basically, Nick Pivetta last year was the only guy you looked at and was like, honestly, it was kind of unfair to Nick Pivetta. When Nick Pivetta would go fewer than 7 innings, it was like, that was a failure. It's like you had to use the bullpen tonight.
Right, only went 5 2/3.
Right, because every other game you were relying so much on the bullpen. I guess a little bit of a shout out to Randy Vasquez. He ate up a lot of innings last year, even though he's not the best pitcher, but certainly was able to relieve some of the guys' stress. But this is why it's so crucial to get someone else, and you don't want Musgrove to be in that spot where you're pushing him past where you want to go in June.
And again, they probably won't. Like oftentimes, like the organization is going to put the player in a position to be successful. Like the organization is not going to like do something to the detriment of the player. There's a fine line. I mean, you're not going to work against the best wishes either of like one of your key contributors. He's under contract, I want to say, through 2027. So you're paying him $20 a year, which is a reasonable number if you get production from him. But you just can't overdo it. Again, the World Series isn't going to be won April 15th. Hopefully they got him healthy come September 15th and October 15th for San Diego. All right, one more Padres story on the other side, and it's tied to what we've talked about ad nauseum this offseason. It's AJ Preller's future, because Marty Caswell asked Eric Grupner if there was an update on AJ Preller and a possible extension. You'll hear from Eric Grupner on the other side about AJ Preller. Plus at 3 p.m., Kevin Acee, our Padres Insider, is on the show. Reese Dixon Waters coming off a big game against UNLV. He's over 1,000 for his career now. He'll join us coming up at 3:30 with Aztec basketball tickets to give away against the University of Wyoming coming up February 3rd. So don't go anywhere. This is San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Seahawks opened up as favorites over New England for Super Bowl 60. Seattle opened as 3.5-point favorites before jumping up to 4.5-point favorites, according to DraftKings. Assuming that the Patriots close as underdogs, it's going to break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they've been favored. Both the Patriots and the Seahawks entered the season at plus 6,000 odds to win the Super Bowl. In other NFL news, Philip Rivers withdrew his name from consideration to be the Bills head coach, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels to be the team's new offensive coordinator. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
All right, John Schaefer and Sammy Long. We have Aztec basketball tickets for Aztecs Wyoming coming up February 3rd. We'll give those away after we talk to Reese Dixon Waters coming up at 3:30. Aztec veteran guard will join us at 3:30. Kevin Acee with more on Yu Darvish's potential retirement. Kevin Acee will join us coming up at 3 p.m. I find this interesting. Maybe we're reading too much into it, but it's kind of the job of us to read too much into things. Okay, the show is long. Okay, I mean,
we got to make something out of nothing.
I mean, I do not think it's nothing, and I really believe in my heart of hearts that in the AJ Preller San Diego Padres extension drama, and it is drama because it's played out since like the second day of October when they lost to the Cubs in 2025 last year. I believe that if both sides wanted to get something done, it would have been done a long time ago. So initially, like, well, do the Padres want to get something done? And we've heard from them now publicly say yes. Kevin Acee's written articles on it. I don't know if it's been Eric Grupner or John Sadler. I know, without doing the deeper dive right now, that the Padres have said publicly that they desire an extension with AJ Preller. Then why hasn't it gotten done? And I think it's the ball is in Preller's court, so to speak. So listen to this. This is very short. This is from Marty Caswell, who catches up with the CFO in Eric Grupner, who's worked with AJ Preller for a long, long time, kind of on the other side of the building, marketing and baseball operations. This is Eric Grupner on if there's anything new when it comes to AJ Preller and an extension.
Yeah, talks continue. Nothing new. Same comment that has been made multiple times before. Yeah. Thanks.
And then he kind of just walked away, which I understand. I mean, yeah, very short.
Yeah.
So to me, that leads me down a path. What do you think, Sammy? That like the organization probably put the contract on his desk. Maybe said do X, Y, or Z. Maybe they put another contract on his desk. He hasn't signed it for whatever reason. So that's where I am with it. I think the organization wants to keep him beyond 2026, but apparently AJ Preller isn't yet prepared to sign that document.
I got to give you props. You were the first on this with maybe AJ Preller's the one putting the holdup up, because at first it felt like AJ Preller went all in at the deadline. Maybe they were holding that against him and kind of doing a wait and see thing. But no, in any sport, you would never let a manager be making decisions for the team in terms of transactions, potential trades, signing guys for the future without a contract in place. If you didn't believe in that GM, you would never let that happen. I mean, that makes no sense to be like a guy you're about to fire, then signing a guy to a 5-year contract. I mean, that you're signing problems up for the next guy in place. I think AJ Preller looks at this and goes, I don't know who it's going to be sold to. There's certainly going to be a lockout next year. It's all looking like, and they haven't shown the willingness to spend the money at the clip that AJ Preller probably feels he deserves. And the fact that AJ Preller has kept this team relevant despite not a lot of spending, but spending in the wrong places. Bogarts and Machado, there's nothing they can do with that. They're not going anywhere, not going out and getting all the big ticket free agents. I think the fact that he's kept this team relevant through trades and giving away prospects that, like at last year's trade deadline, I don't think people thought the Padres were going to be that active. And then all of a sudden they were the most active team in the league and shipped off this farm system for a lot of prospects and guys coming back. So I just think in regards to this, I do think it's AJ Preller kind of sitting there going, well, I want to wait and see what the Padres are going to do for me before I lock myself into a long-term situation.
I think it's possible. I don't know. I mean, we're going to look up at the end of the day, and the Padres are going to be potentially over the luxury number again, to their credit. So It's not like they're just cutting back and slashing everywhere. That's not who they've been. Are they a little hamstrung because of these salaries on the books? Well, yeah, a lot of that has to do with AJ Preller as well. Listen, do I think he'd be sought after as a quote unquote free agent as a general manager? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think there'd be interest. I'm not saying he's like the most sought after executive in the history of the game, but I think he could certainly get a job if 2026 comes to an end and he's a free agent. Maybe some of that's contingent on what they do in 2026. I would think, like from the outside, it's like, well, listen, AJ Preller's been here for a decade plus. Wouldn't he want to see it through? But you have to see it through his lens as well, which is like, what's the future of this organization? Who's buying this team? And am I going to have the same level of security that I previously enjoyed under Peter Seidler? I mean, AJ Preller had an amazing relationship with Peter. Now he's remained on as general manager. But if you sell this franchise, does that change his flexibility or his security? But then again, if he has a contract that he could sign that extends him through 28 or 29. So I just don't know what he's thinking, but I do know this. In professional sports, there's always a reason. And it doesn't make sense to me that it isn't done. So there's got to be a reason why it isn't done as of yet.
Well, maybe AJ Preller kind of is using the fact, and you're completely right about, they are spending money. They're just spending money in places that you wish they weren't spending money for, going over the luxury tax. Maybe AJ Preller looks at this thing and goes, you got Craig Stammen, and I'm not making an indictment on whether that's a great hire or a bad hire, but it was certainly an affordable hire. It was not a Bruce Bochy where you were going to go out and pay a lot of money for. Maybe AJ Preller is sitting there going, well, it's not like they're going to fire me. Like, if they're not going to go spend for a big ticket manager, why are they going to go spend for a big ticket GM? So it's
you're saying so he could play out the strain, because let's say he doesn't sign this thing until June, July, August, September. Like, what are they going to pull it off the table?
Right.
Are they really going to force his hand?
They're kind of like this organization has not shown an ability to spending money to keep increasing the payroll. So that probably also funnels down to the manager, Craig Stammen, very affordable, and then the GM position, especially knowing that they might be selling the team with a lockout, probably not in some big rush to sign some big GM or manager. I think AJ Preller just kind of holding a lot of the power and sitting there going, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna wait this thing out and see and get what I want.
I mean, we made the point last week. And by the way, Padres, so in 2026 payroll, I know these payroll figures aren't finalized. They're 7th in payroll. So this isn't like we're talking about. It's not some fire sale. I mean, their payroll is ahead of the Braves, Cubs, Astros, and Giants. So and those are organizations that are traditional spenders in modern baseball. So I do give the Padres credit for maintaining this payroll, but there is this question out there, like what's looming over the organization is some type of cloud. I'm not saying it's a black cloud, but like, what does the future of the organization look like if and when the Seidler family ultimately sells it? And we made this point last week. It's like in business, everything's about leverage. It's like when you have it, sometimes you're able to use it to your advantage. I believe AJ Preller does have more leverage. I'm not saying all the leverage, but more leverage than the organization. The analogy in radio is like, if you're working a drive time show and you got great ratings and creating a ton of revenue, and the revenue is far outpacing your salaries, they don't want to lose you. So they might be willing to work more with you, and they might be willing to extend your contract or pay you more money. You don't have that leverage if you don't have ratings, you don't have revenue. So I think he tends to have the leverage in this conversation. And we'll see where it ultimately lands. You made the point last week, and I agree. Listen, a big feather in the cap of the organization would be coming to terms as spring training gets underway. That would be a positive,
right? If
we could stop focusing on AJ Preller and they announce some type of extension between now and let's say mid-February.
Well, and even that soundbite with Marty, it's like I'm not calling it Eric Grupner, but it's like they're a little short with reporters for asking very valid questions. It's like, if you got the deal done, this wouldn't be a thing. Also, you talk about leverage with AJ Preller. AJ Preller has a lot of leverage in considering they let him pick the manager. Remember, Craig Stammen wasn't even in the running, and AJ Preller kept calling him and going, I really think you're right for the job. I want you to throw your hat in the ring. So this is really AJ Preller's hire. So if AJ Preller gets blown out or like if we're thinking, who's the holdup here, the Padres have no incentive to not sign AJ Preller, because if you let him pick the manager and then don't bring him back as GM, what does that say about who's running things? I mean, like, seriously, like, so what vision are you going with? If you're allowing AJ Preller to put his vision for who the manager is, and then you kind of let him roll out of town, what's the next step. So I think AJ Preller has all the cards. Then he picked the manager. I think he's got a contract on his table, and they're selling the team. I just think AJ Preller is kind of playing it smart personally for him.
Yeah, kind of like playing the slow game. I mean, to your point, this past August, he trades the top prospect in the organization. So if you are going to change GMs, like, well, you've like,
that was the prime
big move, okay, at the end of a tenure. And then another huge move is hiring a manager, which means when you bring in the next general manager, if Preller did walk at 2026, are you then eliminating Craig Stammen and allowing the new GM to hire the next manager? I mean, I'm with you. I think it's Preller's organization as long as he wants to be here, but it will be interesting to see how long they allow this to play out. I see it two ways. It's like it gets done by the start of spring training, or I do have serious questions about his future in the organization, because I don't see it as like something that just gets done like August 1st. Also, what if you get off to a slow start? Like now all of a sudden, what are you going to do with AJ Preller? What if you get off to a great start? Now you got to rip the contract up again because he probably wants a better one if you start 39-19. And what happens if you start 19-21 and things aren't going perfectly?
And what you said, we're talking about last week, with an organization, a team that has a lot of questions around it, this should not be a question. This should not be a question that the Padres are having to get. And they are getting the question by reporters, completely valid questions, because they're not doing anything about it. So that's what makes me think with you that it's on AJ Preller's end, because there's no real incentive here for the Padres to be keeping this a narrative. Like there's not really a lot of incentive for them outside of people going, what's going on here? Do they have control of what's happening? It does feel like AJ Preller has all the cards and he's playing it to his advantage.
All right. More on that with Kevin Acee, who will join us coming up live at 3 p.m. Our Padres Insider back with us here in 2026. On the other side, initial thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup. That's next. Plus, we have Aztec tickets to give away against Wyoming February 3rd. We have San Diego Seals tickets. Reese Dixon Waters will join the show at 3:30 right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Kevin Acee coming up live at 3 p.m. Better than the alternative. Anyway, Kevin Acee will join us coming up at 3 p.m. All right, we've spent a lot of time on the Padres, and we will. The latest on Yu Darvish and his quote-unquote retirement at 3 p.m. with Kevin Acee. I don't know if you guys saw this weekend. The Super Bowl matchup is set.
Yes.
Oh, they're doing that again this year?
They're going to do that again in a couple of weeks. New England over Denver.
Some people are going to watch.
Yeah, some people watch. Listen, it's a
bad on it.
It's a matchup. Patriots and Seahawks. I mean, come on. You got some big brands, and this will be in Northern California. Obviously, what a wasted opportunity for the Niners, by the way, at home in Week 18.
Oh, we got to get Jim Russell and Fletcher on here and just talk about how they let Sam Darnold walk out of the building. They had him.
They had him in the building with the chance to clinch the 1 seed. But Patriots and Seahawks, my first blush reaction to everything. Well, first of all, I was somewhat impressed that the Seahawks held on because the Rams were putting pressure on late. They got the stops. It's hard to do in the NFL. And then they got enough first downs late to basically ice the game away. I think the Denver thing, New England should have won the game and ultimately did.
That was an awful game.
It was such a bad game. The story was the weather. But heading into it, it seems to me like Seattle should win the Super Bowl. Again, easier said than done. I'm not saying it's some cakewalk.
No. Yeah.
It's going to be 56-18, but it feels like the chips have fallen where you're also playing in Northern California, not much of a trip. You play there every year. It feels like they're the better team potentially. I kind of like Seattle in a potential close game.
Well, I think the big question with this, you have Darnold going for, by the way, he's the first quarterback from his draft class that include Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield to make the Super Bowl, which is crazy. If you had told someone that 5 years ago, they'd have said you're nuts.
Yep.
But this, like the Patriots, I was talking about earlier, you major question marks about them. They played the easiest strength of schedule in 26 years, like factually, because they played in the AFC East where the Jets are terrible and the Dolphins aren't very good. And then you, in every step of the playoffs, play the Chargers with a completely decimated offensive line, ranked 32nd. Then you play the Texans, who didn't have Nico Collins going to the game. Woody Marks starting running back. They're starting tight end, Dalton Schultz, and their left tackle all get hurt during the game. Stroud those 4 interceptions. And then you play yesterday, and Stidham's the quarterback and not Bo Nix. And you didn't even score a legit touchdown. The only touchdown you got was because Stidham turned the ball over on his own 12-yard line. So I think the big question is, like, when we look at the Patriots, everyone's assuming, the Patriots are back. Vrabel and May, they look great. But are they the benefit of a super easy schedule and a super favorable playoff path if the Seahawks blow them out, which is a big if, because at the Super Bowl everyone's going to show up for. But if the Seahawks beat them and it's pretty handily, I think we have major question marks about New England going into next year if they're a legit team.
So what is their path so far? Houston at home and the Broncos without Nix.
The Chargers at home.
The Chargers is right.
And
I was forgetting if they're the one or the two. They're the two. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like paths to a Super Bowl, I don't recall hearing Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Now, some of that's on those teams that weren't in.
But everyone thinks the chances of Lamar, Burrow, and Mahomes all missing the postseason next year,
of course, that's not
very low.
Of course, that's not happening. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a good enough matchup. Hopefully, it's a good enough game. Like, no matter how we've gotten here, I'm intrigued. Like, can New England finish off this storybook season? It's certainly a storybook season.
Right, 4-13
for Seattle. I don't know. The Seahawks Rams game was a very good game, but I was actually kind of hoping for maybe even more. Like, it didn't come down to the final second. It just didn't.
No.
Like, once Seattle got a first down or two, once they punted with like 20 seconds left, you were hoping it was like a wing and a prayer.
Xavier Smith special teams when he muffed it at the beginning of the half, that was big.
It was basically the game.
And I think also, like, the 4th and 1, Stafford runs and gets a first down, which is crazy because Stafford never runs. I think we just seen the evolution of why you have to have a somewhat running quarterback on that 4th and 4 at the end of the game where they get stuffed. Matthew Stafford's unbelievable and had an unbelievable game, and he is certainly not the reason they lost. But that's where Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar are taking off. Even Darnold are taking off and just getting that.
You're saying 4th and 4 there.
4th and 4.
On 4th and 1, he did get it.
He did.
Yeah, but you're right. I agree
on
with
4th
you.
and 4, the Seahawks dropped back in a zone.
Yeah.
You would never play a zone against Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in that situation. They would just take off and run. It was a great game. Yeah, it does feel like the betting markets, everyone's going to swing to Seattle because of what they saw. And maybe it's fair because the Patriots certainly didn't look good. And had the Broncos been coached better and not just ran it on first and second down every time and had Stidham drop back and get sacked. I mean, like, I hope it's a good game.
Is this up to 4? So it opened at 3.5 and it's up to 4.5.
Yeah,
is that right?
All the early money's coming in on Seattle.
That's kind of a big number. Yeah, I mean, again, in today's NFL, you'd hope maybe for a smaller number, but it makes sense to me.
I wonder if it gets close to a touchdown, and then all the money, the late money, will be coming on New England
to cover like 6.5 or 7
to come back down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, we were talking about this. I think it was me and Bryant were talking about this yesterday. I mean, when we grew up, there were like 10 straight years the games were awful. I mean, it was like the 50.
I heard that you guys talking about this.
But then more recently, of course, you've had some of these all-time games. I think back to Chiefs-Niners a couple of times. Now, last year was not a good game, as you recall.
It was awful for me. I had an awful time watching the game.
So, I mean, I think when you're in it for the sheer entertainment value, when it's not your team, you want a good game.
You just want a good game. You want a fun game.
You want to win by 100 points. I mean, you could care less how good, quote unquote, the game is.
Right.
You just want to win the game. But when it's not your team, I think you're in it for the entertainment value. And I want a good game.
Well, the Chiefs either have a historic late fourth quarter comeback against Philly or the Niners twice, or they get blown out by the Bucs and the Eagles. And those were not fun certainly for me and for anyone. The Bengals Rams Super Bowl was fun a few years ago. That was a good game. Yeah. Obviously, you're gonna have the narrative of, I mean, this matchup in 2016 or 2014
with Russell Wilson at the goal line,
right? This is one of the most iconic Super Bowls of all time. Everyone forgets the one catch. Was it Doug Baldwin? I forgot who it was. Caught it on his shoulder. Play before the Malcolm Butler. Yep. But I just wonder if either of these teams become like dynasties. If the winner of this game is like a favorite for next season, or if this is a one-off Super Bowl.
Don't you think one-off?
I think one-off.
I mean, it's a great story. Listen, if Drake May wins the Super Bowl, incredible. If Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, probably more improbable, incredible, considering
he was a buzz. Arc. He was done.
But I don't think the winner of the Super Bowl is the favorite to win next year's Super Bowl. I mean, maybe for a brief moment in time, but once you get into the season, I don't think there's some prohibitive favorite.
I certainly don't think that with New England. I mean, you can make a case. It sounds crazy a day after they just lost to this team. You can make a case that the Stafford bringing everyone back with that young defense is probably one of the Super Bowl favorites. I'm really curious, because right when the Super Bowl ends, as an NFL nerd like me, I look at the betting markets for next year.
I kind of think it's gonna be like the Kansas Cities, the Buffaloes, the Baltimores.
Your perennial teams last few years will all have big odds. I think Brent's Bears will be up there. I think in year 3 of Caleb.
Yeah. Maybe Shador's Browns after making the Pro Bowl.
What did you guys think about that? That is unbelievable.
I saw something today that said he was the 56th most efficient quarterback in the NFL out of 58 that had enough completion attempts. He was 56th. He was 3 and 4.
Pro Bowl worthy.
With 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions thrown.
That's just what I was going to say. He had more interceptions than he did touchdowns. This will be another career accomplishment, just like getting inducted into the Colorado Ring of Fame for going 13 and 12, losing your bowl game.
Pro Bowl is now he's going to make like 11 Pro Bowls. Like he said, it's just going to be like a career backup. Yeah, 10-time Pro Bowler.
It's just like the Pro Bowl. It's crazy how the Pro Bowl, people used to determine, this guy made the Pro Bowl X amount of times. Like that means something.
It's not all pro. See, people get Pro Bowl confused with all
Great
pro.
Point.
All pro is what matters. Pro Bowl is inconsequential, I think.
Well, the big joke about it is that him and all of the Shador people, they're all bragging about it. And it's just dude, the only reason you're going is because Drake May went to the Super Bowl and the 5 other people that got voted in before you probably said, nah, I'm not going to go play.
What are we even talking about?
It's flag football.
So we could throw a ball through some tire? I mean, who cares?
play dodgeball.
It's completely irrelent.
The Pro Bowl is so bad. You talk about it is unwatchable.
Still 6 million people watch it, but it's ridiculous. Sam, we appreciate you, man.
You guys are the best, man. Love being on with you guys.
Let's do it again tomorrow. All right, Kevin Acee is going to join me on the other side. Our Padres Insider back in 2026. What is the latest on Yu Darvish and his potential retirement and its impact to the Padres in 2026 and beyond? Kevin Acee, our Padres Insider from the Union Tribune, will join us next on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by unbound.org. The Seahawks opened as favorites over the Patriots for Super Bowl 60. Seattle opened as a 3.5-point favorite before quickly jumping to 4.5, according to DraftKings. Assuming the Patriots close as underdogs, it will break a streak of 8 straight Super Bowls in which they've been favorite. The Patriots and the Seahawks both entered the season at plus 6,000 to win the Super Bowl. In other NFL news and notes, Phillip Rivers has withdrawn from candidacy to be the Bills head coach, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel as the team's new offensive coordinator. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, hour 2 here on San Diego Sports 760, and always great to connect with our Padres Insider. Back with us in 2026, Kevin Acee from the Union Tribune, back with us on 760. And Kevin, hope all is well. Appreciate you hopping on here today. I know there's been some reporting over the weekend, but great to have you back in 2026, and thanks for doing it.
Yeah, good to make a January appearance, and I'm glad I'm back for another year with you and whoever.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Me and whoever. I'm calling it John and TBD right now. Okay, so let's start with your reporting over the weekend with Yu Darvish. And I think the way you worded it is correct, where you never said he has retired or he has walked away yet from the money, but poised or intending to do that. So what is the latest again with Yu Darvish, where he is, what now Darvish's agent and the players union are saying? Where are we in this saga?
Yeah, like the overall gist of the story was 100% accurate. But before we get into that and, whatever you want to talk about, I want to acknowledge I should not have I shouldn't have used the word retired. And I shouldn't have definitively said that he was done. I should have made the story what the story is, which was after the first couple sentences, Yu Darvish is walking away from the final 3 years on his contract. Whatever form that looks like, is it the full amount? Is it a buyout? Is it something of a restructuring? I haven't talked to anyone over the course of months, and including up to yesterday, that knows what that will look like. The union weighs in. Yu has sort of vacillated. I was monitoring this story for months, and Yu has was close to writing it a few times, and Yu is not ready. And I knew better. I knew that while Yu is walking away, he is not ready to say that he is retired. He could come back and play on a minor league contract after this. He could play for the Padres. He could play for someone else. I shouldn't say he doesn't want to play right now. He's not ready to think about playing right now, and he does not feel that he should take this money from the Padres over this time. But I knew from conversations with Yu Darvish and others that Yu has held out the possibility, if not even a likelihood, that he would want to pitch again, whether he can or not. And so while other people around him are saying, using, or I should say around the Padres, around the league, using the word retired, that's something I knew that Yu Darvish would not use. And so, I let Yu down, and then, I'm bummed that because of that sort of discrepancy, that then let the readers down, because it gave them a reason to doubt the accuracy of the story. And look, the story was accurate. Yu is walking away from his contract.
Well, that's really good insight, and I appreciate you sharing that with our listeners, because I think that's very insightful. Kevin Acee is our Padres Insider. He's with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I guess, and maybe to your point, and this is how I've always thought about it, it does sound like we've reached the point, though, of a little bit, to your point, where it's almost like semantics. And to some extent, he's going to walk away from a portion of these remaining dollars. We'll see the exact amount. Maybe it's a large total. I guess once this is finalized and maybe the Padres are able to free up some of this money, I guess what does it say about Yu Darvish that he was or is willing to do such a thing? He's not forced to do that, but he is, it sounds like, willing to do something that ultimately is going to benefit the Padres organization, which I think he holds in high esteem, specifically his relationship with Peter Seidler over the years.
Right. And that really should have been, I mean, I'm not going to make excuses about why I used that word and when I shouldn't have and all that, but that really should have been the focus of the story. And I was sort of, whatever, trying to wrangle in there that, like honoring you and how good of a career he's had. Sure. When really, gosh, that is the story, right? Like the Padres are going to realize the savings. And by the way, like they've essentially budgeted for some sort of windfall, for lack of a better word, from Yu Darvish walking away. Like they're like counting on it, even though they couldn't or weren't counting on it. Like officially, it was like, no, we're going to have this money because Yu Darvish has made it clear in the course of months-long conversations, and as a matter of fact, even longer than that, to some extent with the Padres, that he's not going to take money that he doesn't earn, right? Even though he is, let's make it clear, 100% entitled to this money. Sure. And that would be part of the issue, right? Like the union, whose job it is to fight for players and future players and not let precedents be set, are going, whoa, you can't walk away from this money. So it says a lot about Yu Darvish. And remember that he didn't take that money when he voluntarily went on the restricted list in 2024 while dealing with a personal issue. So it's really not all that surprising. But this is the person, the man that Yu Darvish is. It's a pretty darn big deal. And that's something I've been sort of kicking myself, and I kick myself a lot. I think that's how you get better. But I was kicking myself over the last couple of days of, dang it, that just should have been the story, that Yu Darvish is doing this. Like Joe Musgrove said yesterday, and Joe would not, someone asked him about Yu Darvish being around next year, and Joe wouldn't get into like what he expects from Yu Darvish or whatever, talked about how much he respected him. And then he just talked about how incredible it was what he's doing. So he didn't say exactly what he's doing, but like he said, he talked about it. Like it's, pretty remarkable what Yu is going to do.
It's funny you say that. Kevin Acee is with us right now. There's times I call a game, Kevin, and I'm sure you're like this as a writer. I call a game and then I read some of the reporting on it, whether it's in the Union Tribune from Mark, and like I missed that angle entirely. You know what I mean? Like you were right there, but sometimes you kind of, for whatever reason, you go down one avenue where you're like, you know what, maybe I should have pursued another. You mentioned Joe Musgrove. I know you were there yesterday, I think at the Miracle League event with the Padres, when Musgrove spoke about where he is right now. What are the expectations here? He's going to be without restriction, right? But that doesn't mean there won't be a level of cautiousness coming off Tommy John, I guess, heading into 2026.
Right. Speaking of semantics, right? Without restriction, but then there could be some caution, which could be the form of early in the season, not so many pitches, or up and down, meaning like number of innings. Could be middle of the season as they monitor, his mechanics and see where he's at. So that he's available for the end of the year. They expect, look, he's 33 years old. He had a number of, full campaigns before he had Tommy John surgery. He's a guy who's built up, who got himself to a point where he conceivably could have pitched at the end of October, had a normal off season, and they're going into, he's full go in spring. That doesn't mean, as like you pointed out, they won't be careful with him. They will be careful with him. But the expectation is that he gives them a solid number of innings. And maybe that's not the 181 innings he had in both 2022 and 23, but maybe it's 150. And I'm not ruling out, more than that from Joe Musgrove. And the one thing that we should, if you're rooting for the Padres or writing about them, that we need to keep in mind as we go in this and we anticipate what Joe Musgrove is going to do is, like, when that guy is on the mound, like, what was it? Was it like 36 starts total, 2023 and 24, various injuries, and then obviously battling the elbow right to the end and into the postseason in 24 while he's out there. So that's 36 starts over 2 seasons. But while he's out there, almost 5 2/3 innings a start, and that's with a number of short starts and a 3.4 something ERA. Like, when Joe Musgrove's on the mound, he finds a way to be an effective starter.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And they will need him, to your point. But again, I think there's a fine line here. They don't have to have him throwing 7 innings and 103 pitches April 14th, right? There's a long arc to the 2026 season. Kevin Acee is with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but back to Darvish. Would you expect that it would be resolved, some of the financial topics that we're discussing, at some point sooner rather than later, because it impacts the Padres spend in 2026? Like, is that what you would expect? Because if this gets resolved, it allows the Padres to potentially allocate some dollars elsewhere for right now?
Yes. And I don't know the exact or even really approximate timeline, other than the season is coming up in whatever it is, 2 months. But like I said, been monitoring this for almost the whole off season. And on Saturday, when I had no interest, you know where I was. I had no interest in working Saturday. Yeah. I was assured that, okay, now it's, we know we're positive that this is a go. Like, whatever that form is, Yu Darvish will be making a decision that gives the Padres back some money, both for this year and affecting their spending ability, whether it's a 1-year contract, multi-year contract, and they intend to use that money to make the team better. So, my point on that is, after all this time, Saturday is when it was clear that some sort of resolution is imminent, and it will involve Yu Darvish walking away from the full amount, whether that's, some sort of buyout or, whatever they do to resolve this. Because I'm not saying this is unprecedented, but Yu Darvish is a unicorn, and we already addressed that. Like, I don't think the union needs to worry about Yu Darvish walking away from, $40-something million being a precedent, because I don't know how many players are going to do that in the future.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And again, from the Padres' perspective, these are dollars that could certainly impact their ability to compete and contend, obviously, in 2026. So a significant story moving forward. This is, speaking of an all off-season story that's a little bit evergreen right now in San Diego, just do you have any feel for the latest on AJ Preller's future? He's under contract, obviously. The Padres had indicated publicly, I think at some point this offseason, they do desire to extend him, but the extension hasn't been reached, at least in terms of being announced publicly. Would you expect resolution on AJ Preller's future with spring training getting underway in a couple of weeks?
I wouldn't be surprised. I know I have some idea of where these talks are at. A little bit of an impasse. There's a lot going on with the team. AJ Preller is a commodity that has some, he's got some negotiating power, and I don't think he's just going to take anything from the Padres. So maybe it's a little more, I know this, it's a little bit more difficult than they anticipated getting it done, but that doesn't mean it won't get done. My understanding is that they expect it to. Now, hey, like I said, AJ Preller, man, for whatever, there's not a lot of guys who've done what he's done, and there are people in the league that are like, this guy could, give this guy some resources and watch him go. And so there is a little leverage there for AJ Preller.
Final one, Kevin, would just be on the team, and I think that the way they phrased it was they've been exploring the sale. Is that just going to play out in the background? Like, what's a timeline there? Because even exploring a sale doesn't mean they'll be sold. Would you expect something in 2026 about whether they pull the team, off the market or intend to sell it? Is that a story that you would expect to be finalized in 2026? Yeah,
I would say, gosh, there's many people that believe first half of 26 or forget it, because, what owner's going to walk into potential lockout?
Right.
That is knowledgeable speculation by people, but that's not coming from any potential buyer. So who knows? I'm just saying that's something that knowledgeable people are talking about. And so I do know that, look, this is a process, multi-billion-dollar process, and people are looking at the books. There are potential buyers, serious buyers, but the reason I'm hemming and hawing and even going over my mind right now about naming names I've heard is, I've also heard from people that it's dragging and it's not going as fast as maybe some expected it to. So, again, it's been the off season. I expect this in terms of both my interest and everybody's interest, as we're all around the team again every day for 8 months, that it'll pick up. And yes, it's a huge story that sort of looms over the Padres. But I say it's a huge story because it is, obviously. Who's going to own the team? What kind of resources will that person have, whether it's the Seidler family et al. Still, or it's some new person. That said, really don't think the players could care. And they have the team they have. It's not going to be that much different. They will obviously make a couple signings or trade whatever here right before spring training or during spring training. But, the core is there, and that's the team for 2026. But, yeah, for the future of this team, it's a gigantic story.
You know what? I said final question, but I'll open this can of worms about ownership. Is there, this is just asking for your opinion. Would it be possible that Sheil Seidler would be a part of a new ownership group with the
Zero
Padres?
chance.
Okay. Zero chance.
And I probably just opened the can of worms there where you've got 10 more questions, but I know you don't have time, so I'll see you later. No, no, there just isn't. Look, Peter Seidler didn't have as much money as people thought. Some people thought. More people than I'm actually comfortable with actually thought that he was a billionaire. Sheil Seidler certainly does not have that money. And, she wasn't the control person. MLB did not think she should be the control person. I don't see any reason why she would want to be a part of a different ownership group. So I would say that, 0% chance if the team is sold that Sheil Seidler would be a part of that ownership group. It's certainly in any significant way.
Sure. Kevin, love the insight and the perspective and appreciate your reporting. And again, you sharing your time with our listeners. So excited to have you back in 2026. We'll catch up again at some point in the next couple of weeks. Safe travels. And thanks again.
Take care, John.
All right. Great stuff from Kevin Acee. We're going to react to that on the other side. Reese Dixon Waters from San Diego State at 3:30 on San Diego Sports 760. All right, we have Aztec basketball tickets to give away in about 10 or 15 minutes. Reese Dixon Waters will join us in 10 minutes. So we kept Kevin. We appreciate him taking time for us. Probably a few minutes too long, but a lot of really good insight in there, including, you'll hear it again if you missed it at 5 p.m. I can paraphrase to some extent, but, Kevin said, I think with the benefit of hindsight, he would have phrased a couple of things in his reporting on Yu Darvish and his potential retirement a little differently. But to Kevin's point, the point remains that Darvish is prepared to walk away from a large sum of money. He's owed $43 million. Will there or could there be a buyout involved? Yeah, probably. But will the Padres see cost savings that will benefit them in 2026 and beyond? I think the answer is yes. And I think Kevin made that clear in our conversation. In addition to that, it did sound like I made this point. You guys have heard me if you've been listening. I made this point a lot this winter that it feels to me now like AJ Preller has the ball in his court and he's got some of the leverage. And I think Kevin was willing to go down that path as well. So while it, I think, quote unquote, should get done, it doesn't mean it will get done. And then I found it interesting. Like I had held out a world where maybe Sheil Seidler was going to be a part of the next ownership group, not because it was going to be her money that was going to lead the way, but I thought she could be, whether it's a minority owner or even representing ownership with the backing of someone else's financing or money. I thought that was at least something to consider. Now, I never thought like, oh, trust me, this is going to get done, but I thought it was at least something to consider. It didn't sound as if from Kevin's reporting that was very realistic. He did says that they've been speaking with potential buyers, and I think he also went down the path that it's maybe been slower than some expected. So, I mean, the Padres, when you think about it from a top-down conversation, from ownership to general manager to then the dollars and cents of this Darvish deal, they got a lot going on organizationally. Now, I still think their position on field to be good enough, if that makes sense. I think they have work to do to complete the roster. I still do like their core. We got to remember they're coming off back-to-back 90-win seasons. I think they're positioned well enough. We all want to see them finish off this roster. They need another starting pitcher. They need a first baseman. They need bench help. I mean, no team's perfect. They don't have to have a perfect roster heading into the year, but they do need to complete their roster. I do think the Darvish money is a big part of that story from now until opening day. So hopefully we get resolution on the money. Whether it's technically a retirement or not, maybe that's for another day. But maybe the contract is voided to some extent, or there's a buyout clause that's presented, and he ends up walking away from a lion's share of the $43 million, and the Padres get $10 or $15 million of salary relief for 2026 that they could then use on starting pitching. Nick Martinez, whomever else, Justin Verlander. There's a number of starting pitchers, veteran starting pitchers that I think could help this team that are available, but it's been a little bit of a waiting game. So good reporting, good insight there from Kevin Acee on where the Padres are. I mean, listen, he's going to be in Peoria in days because the Padres are going to be in Peoria in days. I mean, you're looking at the very end of the offseason right now for this team. Players probably completing vacations. This is the time of year you do it. The end of January, a lot of players report before pitchers and catchers, usually around February 1st. So you got people trickling in probably the next week. And then I want to say there's media availability the second week of February, right after the Super Bowl. And then you're going to hear questions delivered to AJ Preller and potentially Eric Grupner and even potentially Jon Seidler. So a lot going on that we will be discussing today and moving forward. We're switching gears. We're giving away Aztec tickets on the other side and Reese Dixon Waters, San Diego State, terrific guard, coming off a big game over UNLV. He has surpassed 1,000 career points as well. He'll join us on the other side after our conversation. We'll give away Aztec tickets for the Wyoming game on February 3rd. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
Their support is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Seahawks open as favorites over the Patriots for Super Bowl 60. Seattle opened as a 3.5-point favorite before quickly jumping up to a 4.5-point favorite, according to DraftKings. If the Patriots do close as the underdogs, it will break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they were the favorite. Both the Patriots and Seahawks entered the season at plus 6,000 odds. In other NFL news and notes, Phillip Rivers withdrew his name from consideration for the Bills head coaching search, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels as the team's new offensive coordinator. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
All right, we're going to try to connect with Reese Dixon Waters. San Diego State practicing earlier this afternoon. They've got Colorado State in a critical game. They're all critical. Like, I'm going to tell you that from here on out. They're all big games, including Wednesday against a very efficient offense in Colorado State. They've gotten healthier. Their overall record is not good in the league, but they're getting healthier. So we're going to catch up with Reese Dixon Waters, who went over 1,000 career points on Saturday in Vegas. San Diego State bouncing back, and they do so in a big way, beating UNLV in Vegas as the Aztecs remain in first place in the Mountain West Conference. So great to reconnect with Reese Dixon Waters, who goes over 1,000 career points in that win over UNLV on Saturday. And first of all, Reese, appreciate you taking time for us here today on San Diego Sports 760.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate y'all for having me.
I'm guessing after a win on national TV and you go over 1,000 career points, your phone, you probably heard from a lot of people on Saturday after that game. Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, my family was there, so it was cool to just get a dub and just to be able to, play as hard as I can and get a W with the team.
Is that one of those things that Reese Dixon Waters is with us right now? Like, are you even aware over the course of your college career where you are in like career scoring? Do you see that as a milestone, getting over 1,000 career points?
It wasn't something that I was aware of. I didn't hear anything about it. And it's not something I really focus on. I try to just take it one moment at a time, one possession at a time, so I don't go into a game thinking I'm going to score a certain amount of points or have a certain milestone that I have in terms of points that I want to have, because I think for me as a scorer, it's going to come, fluidly throughout the game. So it's cool, though, to reach 1,000 points. It's a pretty big achievement for myself. But, winning is more important. So it would look good to have that along with, a Mountain West championship and to go far in the tournament.
No doubt about it. I've always seen you, Reese, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you kind of answered there in your response. You're even keeled, and you're a lot. And Brian Dutcher's that way. You could lose a game like you did at Grand Canyon. He's not overreacting to it, and then you can win a game like you did against UNLV, and it's not like your season was made because you won in Vegas. What were the keys to the quick turnaround, overcoming the frustration of the finish on Wednesday night to put together a game like you guys played on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think, you can't get too high or too low. I think especially in sports, especially with basketball, I feel like the ball going in or not, you have to stay the same person every day. You got to stay consistent with who you are. And that's something that, I think I'm getting a lot better at, something I am pretty good at, thanks to my coaches and my parents, for helping me and raising me the way that they did. After losing, the Grand Canyon game, I feel like we had to bounce back and get a W, not only for ourselves, but not only for the team, but each and every one of us individually. I feel like, we needed that. We couldn't go in still thinking about GCU when we went to play UNLV. And I think our mindset is, we're trying to win the league. So you have to have a short memory, especially when it comes to a loss, but also when it comes to a win as well.
I want to say recently, maybe in a post-game conversation, you told me you felt as if whether the team is more connected or maybe the team has been more connected on defense. I go back to like that Arizona game. And from that point on, I don't have all the metrics in front of me, but you guys have been among the better defensive teams in the country since that Arizona game. You're now feeling that on the floor. Do you feel like this team is becoming more and more connected with each passing game?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think early in the season we had moments. Yeah. We showed how good we were defensively, but, especially as the season went on, especially after that first half of the Arizona game, I feel like in the second half, we kind of fell apart a little bit, especially with our defensive rebounding. But we learned from that first half, and to know that we could do that with one of the best teams in the country was great. So,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just what has it been like for you to take on the veteran leadership role? Like, what is that like for you? How do you lead? Is it through the example? Is it through your communication skills? Like, how do you see yourself as a leader? You got a younger team. I look out there sometimes. I think Saturday at Vegas, there were times you have 4 underclassmen on the floor when you got LZ and Tay and you got Taj and you got Pharaoh Compton out there. You got 4 underclassmen on the floor. What's it like being a veteran leader on a team that has so much production from younger players as well?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. My coaches, especially in the beginning of the year, they were telling me how I got to be more vocal. Not saying that I don't talk at all, but just be more willing to be vocal in moments, which I do. I have my moments where I'm vocal and I kind of speak. I like to look at somebody that leads as example more than being so vocal. I believe in, the example being more important than just talking. But I also understand how important talking is, especially as a vet. So just trying to help the younger dudes out, on the court and off the court. They help me out a lot too. As much as I may lead them, they got moments where they tell me how they feel about how I'm playing or what I'm doing, or if I mess up, they get on me, and I never have moments where I look at them and be like, they're crazy, because they're looking at me playing. I can't see it, so I'm always willing to take constructive criticism, no matter how harsh it is, because I know there's always truth to it. But, that's been really my role more than being a vocal leader, leading by example, and having little moments here and there when I speak. Everybody understands how important it is when I talk, because I don't talk as much. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great insight from Reese Dixon Waters. Again, went over 1,000 career points. By the way, in 5 minutes, we're giving away Aztec tickets, not for Wednesday, but for the upcoming Wyoming game. So be listening for a chance to win those tickets. What was it like for you watching and being out there with Miles Byrd specifically on Saturday? He just had one of those games where everything he threw in went in. 5 of 5 from beyond the arc, 7 of 8 from the floor, impacting the game at both ends. What was that like for you to be a part of?
It was cool. Miles is actually right here. But yeah, it was pretty cool watching him, go to work on UNLV. That was fun. It was really fun to watch. I watch it every day in practice. There's times where I have to guard it. So I'm glad I was on this team and not having to guard all that the whole night.
It's funny. You mentioned kind of being even keel. I want to say he's going to join us, by the way, tomorrow at 3:30. So we'll hear from him tomorrow. Yeah. But I want to say Mark Ziegler quoted him yesterday or after the game saying, when he got home Wednesday night, which was Thursday morning for you guys, after you got home, like 3 a.m, he really couldn't sleep. He's like, I wanted to watch it back. Like, I didn't shoot the ball the way I thought I could shoot it. I wanted to watch it back. And then again, he reaped the rewards, obviously, on Saturday. So there's no days off in this league, as you know. I mean, this is such a good league. It doesn't get near the national respect it deserves. But again, there's been so many years where 4 or 5 teams have been in the NCAA tournament. Another big test coming up on Wednesday. I know you've begun your prep now for Colorado State, a very efficient offensive team that's getting healthier. How critical is Wednesday? But just again, putting yourself in a position to win each and every time you get out there in a desire to win the league this year.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's important to get this done on Wednesday. For one, we got home court, so we got to protect home court, but also just to, keep us in first place, keep us, healthy and above in first place. We take it one game at a time. We don't look in the future. So obviously our focus is on Colorado State, and we're just trying to go back on a win streak like we were on. So, we just started our prep today, and, practice was pretty good. We try to limit their 3-point shots because we know they're a good 3-point shooting team. So, yeah, today was a good day, and we're just looking forward to Wednesday.
Final one, Reese, would just be on, what do you think is there a next step for the team, like for you guys to fully unlock where you want to be as a team over the next handful of weeks heading into February and March? Like, what is the next step, in your opinion, for this team to reach its true ceiling?
I would say, in my opinion, our next step would just have to be the play after the play on offense, and then obviously on defense, just flying around even more than we have already. I think we're doing a really good job at just staying solid and playing hard, but there's times where, like, maybe it's me or somebody else where there's that extra pass and our teammate gets beat and we can go out there and help them. So I think we got to get better at that. But, that's just something that comes with knowing each other's defensive tendencies, and that just comes with playing And I think that we're getting a lot better at it, but it could be a lot better as well.
Reese, appreciate you taking time. I'm going to ask you to throw out a number, let's say between like 1 and 15, because whatever number you say is going to be the number of caller that whoever calls in is going to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Aztecs game. So you throw out a number for us right now.
I'm going to throw out the number 9.
The number 9. Now you wear 39. So does that have to do with that?
Absolutely.
All right. The number 9.
Absolutely.
The number 9. Anything specific about that number before I let you go?
The number 39?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up on 39th Street in Los Angeles, and I just remember being a young kid and having a lot of times where I was struggling, in life because of my family situation, and not having my biological father around was tough. And I felt like during my injury and leading up to the season, that was kind of the place I was in, not the same situation, but the same kind of feeling of being lost. Basketball was the one thing that basketball and my faith and my religion brought me back to kind of just being myself and being comfortable with who I am, and just helping me in life. So kind of just remembering those times, and I just chose that number.
Love that.
The street that I lived on, yep.
That is terrific insight. And I know Aztec fans are going to remember that if they're listening right now. Reese, thank you so much for taking time, and we will see you Wednesday night at Viejas.
I absolutely appreciate it.
All right, great stuff from Reese Dixon Waters, 877-767-4760. Call right now, caller 9. As Reese Dixon Waters has told you, has 2 free tickets to the Aztecs take on Wyoming on February 3rd at Viejas Arena. That's February 3rd against Wyoming. 877-767-4760. Caller 9, you have 2 free tickets. We'll get to Is That Good? The best and worst of the sports weekend on the other side. This is San Diego Sports 760. All right, good hour here. If you missed Kevin Acee, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. Just caught up with Reese Dixon Waters, getting ready for Colorado State on Wednesday. So you can hear that right here on San Diego Sports 760. 7:30 is the start time. Our pregame coverage is going to begin at 6:30 p.m. Will Brinson is going to join us coming up live at 4:30. The Super Bowl. I know this is hard for some to believe. That matchup is set. So we'll get into what we saw yesterday. We'll look ahead as well to the Seahawks and the Patriots. But right now, let's get to this.
Is that good? Wilcox, snapper, Huber, holder from 29 yards away. Oh, he missed it badly. Kick on the way. Boswell. That's a winner. The good and bad from the sports weekend.
Brett, I'm going to have you start because you told me that you've got something for our listeners for Is That Good? So I'm going to let you get us started here today. What do you have from this past weekend?
All right, this past weekend on Saturday, the Lakers defeated the Mavericks 116-110.
Okay.
And it was round 4 of Luka versus Dallas.
Yeah.
Since the February 2nd trade that sent Luka to the Lakers, these are Luka's numbers against his former team.
Okay.
He's 4-0. He's averaging 33 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. He's shooting 51% from the field, and he has a plus minus of plus 67.
Is that good?
Is that good?
Yeah, it's good.
It is good.
Wow. So he has feasted against the Mavs.
Yes.
Now, did you see this from Luka on Saturday? At halftime, he took initial steps to the Dallas locker room. Like subconsciously.
Yeah, muscle memory.
He started going that way, and then you turned.
That's funny.
Yeah, which is pretty funny. But again, he did spend a lot of time, obviously, in Dallas with the Mavericks. I'm going to start here. Did you see this? When the Clippers fell to 6-21, Ty Lue said the goal was to go 35-20 from here on out. Okay, that would get them to 41-41 in the postseason in the NBA. So someone from a Clippers blog put on social, if the Clippers go 15-3 at any stretch this season, I'll print this tweet and eat it. Well, guess what? Since they were 6-21, they're 15-3. They won yesterday. You talk about a surging team. They're 15-3. They beat the Nets yesterday, 126-89. They're one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard has been incredible. He has scored at least 20 points in 24 consecutive games, a career high for Kawhi. Is that good?
It is good.
And by the way, Kawhi Leonard saying post-game, I don't know how healthy that is for you. Referencing eating a printed out picture of a tweet. So that was Kawhi Leonard post-game. You got any others? I got a couple more. We just talked to Reese Dixon Waters. Congrats to Reese Dixon Waters. He goes over 1,000 career points, had 13.7 rebounds on Saturday. Aztecs win going away against UNLV. They win by 11. They're 8-1 and in first place in the league. Is that good?
It is good.
And by the way, we'll talk to Miles Bird tomorrow at 3:30. Miles Bird is the only Aztec in the Steve Fisher, Brian Dutcher era. This goes back to 1999. To go 5 of 5 from beyond the arc in a game or better without a miss. He was 5 of 5. He was 7 of 8. By the way, his one miss, the ball was like poked out from behind. He was like going up and it was poked away. But honestly, any shot that reached the rim, he was 7 for 7. And the one shot that he technically missed, he just didn't really get off. But he was terrific, just terrific. 23 points, 5 of 5 from beyond the arc. My final Is That Good? We touched on this a little bit earlier. Congratulations in order to Shedeur Sanders. Capping off his rookie season by reaching the Pro Bowl. Let me count the number of touchdowns he threw this year, 7. Now he threw 10 interceptions. He won 3 games. But he's a Pro Bowler replacing Drake May for whatever that's worth. Is that good?
No, he's not good. Are you kidding me?
This is a ridiculous story. I'm all for all pros. I think all pro counts. Like if you're the best quarterback in the NFC or best quarterback in the AFC, okay, call them an all pro. But when you're replacing Super Bowl starters with guys that started 7 games and threw 7 touchdown passes. I think it's time to maybe get rid of the distinction.
I really want to know how many dudes said no before they had to land on him. So you're telling me Caleb Williams was like, nah, dude, I'm good. I don't need to go play flag football.
Well, because Caleb's on, is he on the NFC side? Because I think there's still Pro Bowlers on the AFC, even though there's no game, to your point. They're not playing a game. There is a competition or something. I have no idea. What is skills games? They play
like dodgeball and dumb crap like that. But still,
how many people did it take for someone to say yes?
There had to have been backups in the league that had better numbers than what he had in the 7 games, to where you're just gonna put him in there. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't. And when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this is like one of those, like, it was like a satire site. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Like, who would have had that? Like The Onion, like Shedeur Sanders has been named to the Pro Bowl with 3 touchdown passes or whatever this year. But no, like, he's actually been named. And that's why I think I've now reached the point. They got rid of the game. Okay, nobody needs to get hurt. I'm now at the point, eliminate all Pro Bowl activities. Like, remember we joked, I'm like, well, Kyle Tucker's not the reason why the sport is forever ruined and we need a new CBA. But honestly, Shedeur Sanders, this might have gone a little too far with him. I mean, come on.
I don't know what NFL story baffled me more this weekend: the Shedeur somehow making the Pro Bowl, or the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy. They were both just like,
is that also
really?
From The Onion? It's like, we have decided to hire Mike McCarthy. Why? What went into that decision?
Dude couldn't win with Dak. He couldn't win with Micah Parsons and, a decent Dallas team. So now you're going to go to Pittsburgh, where you don't even have a third of what you had in Dallas.
Aaron Rodgers, because you're Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, so and you're the reason that you are not a Packers head coach. So you're not going to go with him.
Doesn't it feel like we're in an interesting time with the league? Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't like Seattle and New England weren't on my bingo card week 1, right? Sam Darnold's new landing spot is Seattle. New England, I mean, give me a break. What were the expectations? We knew they had a soft schedule, but nobody thought they were going 14-3. And now they got that clear path to the Super Bowl. To their credit, they took advantage. Chargers, Texans, Broncos without Bo Nix. But come on, heading into the year when you've got Mahomes still in the league and you've got the Lamar Jacksons and the Josh Allens in Philadelphia coming off Saquon Barkley's 2,000-yard season. You got the Rams. You have the Niners, who looked like they were the 1 seed as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago. This, to me, is just like kind of turning the NFL on its head, because it was very unexpected heading into the year. I mean, I think it's a good enough matchup. I do. You go back to whatever it was 10 years ago, Patriots and Seahawks. That was an incredible matchup. Seahawks have a good recent history. Patriots speaks for itself, obviously. I hope it's a good game. I think it will be.
Look, I'm not going to rail on New England too much about having, the easy path in the playoff. They were the number 2 seed. You want a higher seed to theoretically get you an easier path to get to the Super Bowl. And I don't think that, if we were talking about, Buffalo playing Seattle today, I don't think people would be quick to point out that, but Josh Allen didn't play Lamar Jackson. He didn't have to play. I don't think they'd be bringing that up like they're bringing it up like as a negative with New England.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's interesting because I just thought to myself, if it was Josh Allen against Seattle, what would your level of interest be as a football fan or a sports fan compared to what we get? I do think it would be heightened, right? Buffalo back in the Super Bowl.
I don't know. I think it'd be about the same.
Maybe similar.
Because I'm not sitting here every season just going, oh, hopefully this is the year that Josh Allen gets his ring. It's just like, I'm not a Bills fan. So, if he gets it, he gets it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So it doesn't really have that much more appeal. The Patriots kind of has more appeal just because they're more of, like you said, an underdog, opposed to, if the Bills would have ended up there, it would have been like, well, they should have been there. Or if the Chiefs were there, it's like, well, they should have been there. This is just kind of like, well, they won 5 games last year and now you're in the Super Bowl. And I don't really have, lots of people are like, oh, Patriots are in it. It's not the same Patriots though.
No, it's
the hoodie's not there. Brady's not there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a completely different team. It's New England in name only. So I don't have like any hostility or anything towards, the Patriots. Like some people are still treating them like they're Deflategate.
No, I do agree. It's different players in the uniform, but it is still the same uniform. And some people are like, it's still New England.
Well,
I thought they went away.
Even you could do the same thing to a certain extent with Seattle about how, it feels like, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, that stupid play call on the goal line. That seems like that just happened, 3-4 years ago. It kind of did, but it's one of those things where it's just, you could say the same thing, but it's not.
It's fresh blood.
But Russell Wilson isn't there anymore. Pete Carroll isn't there anymore. It's just, the uniforms are the same, but that's about the only thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll get to the wrap on the other side. Will Brinson with much more on the Super Bowl matchup. He will join us live at 4:30. If you missed a really insightful interview with Kevin Acee earlier, you'll hear it at 5 p.m. on Yu Darvish's future and what it means for the San Diego Padres. Stay with us. Hour 3 coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Covered California for the love of Californians. The Seahawks open up as favorites over New England for Super Bowl 60. Seattle is open as a 3.5-point favorite before jumping to 4.5, according to DraftKings. If the Patriots do close as an underdog, it will break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they've been favorite. The Patriots and the Seahawks both entered the season at a plus 6,000 odds. In other NFL news and notes, Phillip Rivers withdrew his name from the Bills head coaching search, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels to be the team's new offensive coordinator. Open enrollment is here. Covered California can help you make sense of benefits, deductibles, networks, and the general confusion of it all. Enroll by January 31st. Covered California for the love of Californians. Visit coveredca.com.
All right, hour 3 here with you until 6 p.m. We have San Diego Seals tickets to give away, and we will do that this hour. 2 tickets to see the Seals, January 30th. So let's do the math on that. That's Friday night. Friday night, we have a pair of tickets to see the Seals at Pechanga Arena. Tickets and info at sealslax.com. That's sealslax.com. Seals LAX. Heroes Night, January 30th. We'll give away 2 tickets to see the Seals. Indoor, professional indoor lacrosse in San Diego. We'll give those away this hour. Now, Will Brinson will join us at 4:30 with more on this matchup, the Super Bowl matchup that we'll see 2 weeks from yesterday. And again, if you missed Kevin Acee, we're going to share that conversation again with you at 5 p.m. Tons of insight on Yu Darvish and his future. So Kevin Acee, stick around for that. That's coming up at 5 p.m. So a lot to get to over the next 2 hours. And right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Good question. I'm messing this up. Sorry. Who is going to win the Super Bowl? I think Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl. And I hope it's a good game, but I think Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl. What will people be saying about Sam Darnold? Wow. Kind of insane from where he was with the Jets to even a year ago with Minnesota. That was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
To right. I mean, it's really an amazing story. I thought he played an unbelievable game yesterday. I mean, like it was almost like, I'm not saying it was a perfect game, but it was pretty close to a perfect game from Sam Darnold. He played very well yesterday. And I think he'll lead the way, and I think they should be a favorite.
It just showed you the confidence that they have in Darnold, that when they should have been in 4-minute drill towards the end of the game, I was getting flashbacks of Packer clock management.
Yeah, like, are they going to mess this up? I was thinking the same thing. Well, they took over deep in their own territory, and there was still enough time where the Rams, all they had to do, like, just get a stop.
If they were, I should be doing this close and we can't see it, but they were that close to having a Hail Mary shot from about the 40.
Yeah. If not for the play being ruled inbounds, the clock still ticking.
And it was close. That was probably so 2 inches away maybe from him being out of bounds.
So close. But I thought Sam Darnold played very well. And I don't see why that wouldn't continue, truthfully. It's going to be a good game. I hope it's a good game. I just like Seattle in a close game. What do you think?
I'm leaning towards Seattle just because I don't know.
Defense, too.
Well, New England's got a good defense, too, and that's pretty much their thing. I think it's going to be a low scoring. I think it's probably going to be
17.
Yeah, I think it'd be mid-20s.
I could see something like that. Next question.
How will you remember Yu Darvish's career?
I like that. I'll remember it fondly. I think he was at his best one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. And I do believe he will be remembered as one of the best ever to come over from Japan and pitch the major leagues. I don't know if he's the best ever, but he's among the best to do it. And those numbers are going to speak for themselves. When you look at his combined numbers across Japan professionally and the U.S., his numbers are ridiculous. Now looking at him, let me just read these real quick. So his combined numbers, I don't have his combined numbers. In the major leagues, 115 and 93 is his career with a 3.65 ERA. He threw nearly 2,000 innings. I need to find his Japanese numbers. His Japanese numbers were really good. Here they are, Japanese and minor league stats. In Japan, he was 93 and 38 with a 199. You combine Japan with the U.S., which they do not do for Cooperstown, by the way. But if you did it, he's got more than 200 wins. He's got like a 650 winning percentage, and he has something like a 3 ERA. He will not be a Hall of Famer. He's got 115 wins, but he has a very distinguished career, in my opinion.
Do you think he's going to get talked about from a pitching standpoint as the same way like Ichiro gets talked about? Just in terms of like Japanese supers. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the way I see it is it would be like beneath that level. Like especially in this era of Yamamoto, Sasaki, and certainly Ohtani, who's different because he's the two-way player. I just feel like now Darvish is good. He'll be greatly appreciated in Japan, of course. Right? They're revered, the Japanese baseball stars, including Yu Darvish. I certainly wouldn't put him on the level maybe of some of the players certainly he's beyond Roki Sasaki's level, and Yamamoto still has a lot to prove, but he'll be remembered as one of the best ever out of Japan. Simple as that. Next question.
Which Padres promotion are you most looking forward to next season?
All right, so the Padres have released their promotions. Brent and I were looking at these over the last handful of minutes. I saw it this morning. They have some good ones, including bobbleheads. They have some unique ones, such as the Padres Superhero Pocket Tee. The one that made me laugh the most is the Bogey Goes Boom bobblehead. I'm like, does he even do that in real life? They're going to make it as a bobblehead. I like the Merrill Robbery bobblehead, although I'm sure they've done it 5 times with Tatis. Tatis literally robbed 6 home runs last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I like the Mason Miller bobblehead, to where it's got like the flame coming off the ball.
Flamethrower. Yeah. They have a Tatis City Connect bobblehead coming soon, which I like, because they wouldn't unveil what the uniform looks like. By the way, I would think we get news on that within days, Brent.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly not more than a couple of weeks. But anyway, it's a long way of me saying
Superhero Lunchbox.
Superhero Lunchbox is cool. I'm going to go with, after all that, I'm going to go with the April 15th game against the Seattle Mariners, the Puffer Vest presented by State Farm, because that's kind of a cool giveaway. Who gives away a vest? It's cool.
It is cool. Only I'm going to predict it right now.
Not going to fit.
Yeah, everyone's sucking your guts and go on a diet because we're going to get a universal medium for everybody in attendance.
Yeah, exactly. Even like
child's medium.
Yeah, exactly. What's your favorite Padres giveaway or promotion for the upcoming season? You can see it at Padres.com. You can text us 70470. Start with the word team. What do you think, Brent? What are you looking forward to?
I like the bobbleheads this year range from really simple to where it's like they're just recycling an old bobblehead and just put like a new placard on it or whatever. Because like the Manny's Hot Corner bobblehead is
like a bobblehead.
Yeah, just him standing there. But like I said, the Mason Miller one is really cool because it's got like flames coming off the ball and it's got like the 104 mile an hour speed zone and stuff. So that's pretty cool. I like like you brought up the robbing the home run, where is it? The Merrill.
Oh, the Merrill one, yeah.
The Merrill one, that one's kind of cool. But like you said, they've done that one before. And depending on how god awesome or god awful the City Connects are, maybe the Tatis one. We got to wait and see.
We haven't even touched on that really. Because what do we think they're even leaning? Where are they leaning with this next City Connect? I have no idea. I have no idea. Is it navy and orange? Is it another play on brown? Is it a play on the most recent navies of the 2010s? Is it off the wall like their initial City Connects, which were off the wall and popular, by the way?
I hope it's something a little more subtle this time.
Not as loud.
Yeah, the last one was kind of loud and kind of Miami Vice, with the pastel colors. And, like a lot of people, when I saw it, I didn't be like, oh yeah, that screams San Diego. Yeah.
By the way, there is a group night theme game giveaway of Don and Mud on a yacht.
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
Don and Mud mini yacht.
That's what they needed. Grubner, you guys need to do more Don and Mud bobbleheads.
Yeah, probably true. Yeah, probably true. There is one, but that's like the extra ticket, the theme game ticket.
Yeah, like when they do the Star Wars.
Exactly.
Like the one we have right there with, Obi-Wan, whatever it was.
All right, next question.
Who's most likely to be Super Bowl MVP?
I think it's Sam Darnold because I think Seattle's the favorite. Then you think quarterback, and you look at the way Darnold's playing right now. That's basically what happens, right? I don't have all the MVPs in front of me, but we've seen a lot of Super Bowl MVPs go to quarterbacks. So if we believe Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl, then I think Sam Darnold's got a decent chance to be the MVP.
It's either going to be some rando that gets a pick six or has a special teams touchdown, because that's the way it usually would always go. Or I think Kenneth Walker is going to get it, because I think Seattle's going to run. And if, he gets 100+ yards and a couple touchdowns, I think he's a lock. It's not going to be like that year when, James White had like 20 catches and like all that stuff. And then like, okay, Brady, you're MVP, not you, James White. So I'm kind of leaning towards Kenneth Walker. And he's had a really good playoffs. And he hasn't gotten a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I could see that. Yeah, again, you just think, well, who's the favorite? Seattle. So now all of a sudden they have the shorter odds to an MVP. Who's the quarterback? Sam Darnold. Is he? I mean, he was a huge story against the Rams. You're not going to win that game 17-10. So they needed to score 30 points. Now, a huge play was that muff punt, obviously. But they ended up scoring 30+ points. If they can do that somehow against New England, maybe that'll be tougher, to Brent's point, with New England's defense. If they score, 27 points, something like that, we could be looking at Sam Darnold as a potential. Now, again, they got to do it. But Sam Darnold as a potential Super Bowl MVP. Man, who would have said that? I don't know, 2 years ago. Who would have said that 2 years ago?
Dude, like one of the first things that popped in my head when they were doing like the trophy celebration and everything yesterday, when they kept putting up Darnold's numbers, was like, man, the Vikings just got to be just sick right now, to where they're like, no, we don't believe in you. We don't think you can do this 2 years in a row. We're not even going to franchise tag you just in case to see if you can do it. We're just going to let you go. And we're going to go with JJ McCarthy.
There was also I think it was, who was it? Mina Kimes, who a lot of people were like, old takes exposing one of her tweets when they let Geno Smith go. They're like, she like said, like quote tweeted it like, 8 months ago, unlikely to do better than Geno. Like, what are you going to find better than Geno Smith? Well, Sam Darnold, who is now maybe the outside favorite to be Super Bowl MVP heading into the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
Well, and it's crazy too. And, Sammy brought up in the first hour, you look back at like the other guys that are in his draft class, to think that out of all the big names that were in his class, he's the first one to make the Super Bowl.
That is insane. That really is insane. All right, coming up at 4:30, much more on the upcoming Super Bowl with Will Brinson, our NFL insider from CBS Sports. He will join us coming up at 4:30. Coming up next, back to this Yu Darvish conversation. Has he retired, or does he plan to retire or not? Plus, what type of financial relief will that mean for the Padres? And we're giving away tickets to see the San Diego Seals at Pechanga Arena this hour. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry with you, San Diego Sports 760. San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the bonus bucks giveaway. Every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 5 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. We do have San Diego Seals tickets to give away. They're playing Friday night at Pechanga, professional lacrosse here in San Diego, indoor, and we'll give those away coming up in the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. We'll get back to the Yu Darvish story. If you missed Kevin Acee earlier, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. And again, Will Brinson with more in the Super Bowl in about 10 minutes. I was just reading an article from John Wilner at the Mercury News about all of the matters at hand for the new Pac-12, because the new Pac-12, which includes San Diego State, is launching in, like, how many days until July 1st? Not that many, 150 days-ish. I could do a deeper dive. Brent could ask his phone. He's going to tell me it's like 153 days. I'm making it up. Something like that. How many days? 155 is my guess.
156.
Okay, so in 156 days, the new Pac-12 is constituted, and you have, the San Diego States and the Boise States joining the Oregon States and the Washington States. You have Gonzaga playing basketball in this league. So it's a whole new look. And what John Wilner of the Mercury News is reporting is that the athletic directors are getting together this week and discussing a ton of matters, including what will the conference schedule look like for football. There's only 8 football schools, which means you would only have 7 conference games. There are 7 opponents. But there is a scenario where teams will play a home and home potentially against each other to make up for an 8th game. So San Diego State, hypothetically speaking, could play Fresno State at home and on the road, or Colorado State at home or on the road. I think Fresno makes sense just because of the longtime series, obviously, the old oil can. Beyond that, where's the Pac-12 championship going to be held? You want to see it at the site of the higher seed? Like if San Diego State's the 1 seed, you want that game at Snapdragon Stadium, or do you want that game in Vegas because maybe it creates revenue? You're in Vegas. I don't know. And then beyond that, Pac-12 basketball. Where's the Pac-12 basketball tournament? Presumably in Las Vegas, like the Mountain West is. So the point is, there's a lot of agenda items to get to, because like we kept thinking like, this is on the horizon. It's far off. And all of a sudden, Brent just told us this in 156 days, the new league is going to begin. And there are questions that need to be answered. What do you think, Brent, in regards to a conference championship game in football? Would you prefer that? Like if you're trying to get to the college football playoff, and let's say you're San Diego State or you're Boise State, are you willing to give up a home game to have a neutral game?
Yes.
You'd prefer it in Las Vegas?
I think it, not necessarily in Vegas. I would want it to be in SoFi.
I was going to say Southern California.
But I think it's too early in their inception because they'll never get close to filling SoFi. I think it's too big. I think it's something that down the road, once they get some more teams in the conference and they kind of get their feet underneath them, then that's maybe something they could do in the future. But I think it makes them look like a bigger conference when you have your championship game played at a neutral site and not at someone's home turf. It kind of, I just think it seems like, that's something that they would do. Like, well, even the MAC doesn't do that. They play in Ford Field, and stuff like that. So,
but some still. Oh, you're right. I mean, back in the day, the Pac-12 did. And then they went to Vegas.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the day, like Stanford hosted a game. It was like at Stanford.
And Oregon did the 1 year.
Yeah. But you're right. I guess in today's world, like we just watched the Big Ten in Indianapolis. We've seen the ACC in Charlotte. I don't know where the SEC hosted. Atlanta. Big 12, Jerry's World. So, no, you're right. So maybe it initially starts on a campus site and then it ends up at a neutral site. Maybe there's a neutral site that doesn't seat 80,000 people like SoFi Stadium. That would make sense. More of a 40 or 50,000 seat stadium. Shoot, maybe a Snapdragon Stadium just makes sense in general. Although I don't think you'd want one of the home schools, because then if one of the home schools is in it, or one of the
because then you're going to be in a situation like they were basketball that 1 year, and they're like, oh, UNLV is good this year. Now they're going to have home field to the tournament.
I think at the end of the day, you're holding your basketball tournament. Listen, the basketball tournament is going to be like a crown jewel event. The Pac-12 is going to have Gonzaga, San Diego State, Utah State in the same league. Utah State as like, top 25, top 30 metrics. Gonzaga is perennially one of the top 10 teams. San Diego State, it speaks for itself. They played for a national championship 3 years ago. They played for a Sweet 16 2 years ago, played in a Sweet 16 2 years ago. They're a perennial tournament team. So that's a flagship event. Now, it's been played at the Thomas and Mack the last forever number of years, which has been great for the Aztecs. They've won so many games in that building. Having just been there Saturday and having been there now a dozen times over the last handful of years for Mountain West tournaments, I can live without the Thomas and Mack. Like if it's T-Mobile, if there's I don't know where the Aces play, where were we? There's the MGM Garden Grands, and there's all these different buildings, right, for Players Era. So, but I think Las Vegas makes too much sense for basketball, right? You don't need to get cute there. You don't need to go to like Phoenix or LA, or I think you go to Las Vegas for your basketball tournament because everyone's familiar with going to Las Vegas for the basketball tournament. And then the football championship will be interesting to see what they determine, plus the scheduling. But my point with all this is we're going to get news on this soon because, again, it's 156 days till July 1st, but they're not waiting until July 1st to announce a football schedule. They're playing football in late August or early September. So the conference football schedule is coming out in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I don't have any reporting on that. I'm just telling you that because other conferences have already unveiled their conference schedule for 2026. Not all of them, and some are going to come in February, maybe even some in March, like maybe the new Mountain West. I think the Pac-12 is going to get this done at some point sooner rather than later.
Well, it's kind of funny we're talking about conference championships. This just coming down about maybe an hour ago. The ACC is changing its time for when they're going to play their conference championship. They're going to play at noon now this year, so they don't have to go up against the Big Ten
at night, Saturday night. Interesting. Yeah, that's another question. Are you going to be playing on a Friday night? Or are you going to be playing on a Saturday afternoon? It'll be interesting to see where that slots in from a championship perspective. All right, we'll take a timeout. Will Brinson on this weekend's championship games and looking ahead to the Super Bowl in Santa Clara. Will Brinson from CBS Sports, our NFL insider, joins us next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Covered California, for the love of Californians. The Seahawks open as Super Bowl favorites over the Patriots for Super Bowl 60. The Seahawks open as a 3.5-point favorite before quickly jumping up to 4.5, according to DraftKings. If the Patriots do close as underdogs, it will break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they've been favorite. The Patriots and the Seahawks both entered the season with plus 6,000 odds to reach the Super Bowl. In other NFL news and notes, Phillip Rivers withdrew his name from consideration to be the Bills' new head coach, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels to be the team's new offensive coordinator. Open enrollment is here. Covered California can help you make sense of benefits, deductibles, networks, and the general confusion of it all. Enroll by January 31st. Covered California, for the love of Californians. Visit coveredca.com.
All right, Will Brinson, our NFL insider from CBS Sports, back with us. Super Bowl matchup is set, and great to once again connect with our NFL insider, Will Brinson, back with us on San Diego Sports 760. Let's just start with the matchup. We can work backwards on the games, but we now know what it is. Patriots and Seahawks. We see the Seahawks as something like a 4.5-point favorite right now. How do you... I know we got 13 days to discuss, but how could you potentially see this one playing out in a couple of weeks? And thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, of course. Always a pleasure. Obviously, I'm sad that my Rams aren't there, having for Sam Darnold, though. And look, I mean, I think, Patriots, Seahawks is at least a game. I'll say this. I think it's interesting. So last night during the Rams-Seahawks game, I had the group chat with the boys at home. Everyone's like, whoever wins this is going to bludgeon the Patriots. I was kind of like, all right, that's an interesting take. And then my Aunt Susan, who's a big NFL fan, big Jaguars fan, texted me, was like, whoever wins this is going to destroy the Patriots. I was like, this seems, if everybody thinks the Super Bowl is going one way, maybe it's going a different way. But then the line moved a full 1.5 today. It was 3.5 when it opened, and I think the Seahawks are at least 5-point favorites. And you can make a pretty compelling case for it, right? The Seahawks have, if it's not the best defense in football, it's the second best defense in football. And I think they are just as good or like on par with the Texans. Obviously, their offense, really started to click. Sam Darnold's been a perfect mesh with Kubiak. Looks fantastic against the Rams, kind of kicking all the ghosts and the demons to the curb and whatnot. Rashid Shaheed, the addition of him during the season was a monster ad. And Kenneth Walker looks like, he looked exactly like he looked in college on Sunday night. So, the Seahawks are definitely a more complete team. And then I think with the Patriots, if you're going to nitpick New England, I mean, May threw for 86 passing yards in the conference championship in advance. Like that's pretty crazy. And I know the conditions were tough, and the Broncos defense is a top 5 unit as well. But you look at like the Patriots. I saw the stat. The Patriots are like 0.01 in terms of expected like EPA per play on offense, better than this postseason. For the full postseason, they played some tough defense, but for the full postseason, 0.01 points of EPA better than the Jets' entire regular season.
Wow.
Like, they've not been a very good offense, and they've won because Mike Vrabel doesn't flinch. They've got a great defense. The coaching staff has really dialed up everything in the right spots. And so, you could make the case that Seattle is just a significantly better team at this point in time in totality. And then you look at, the Patriots get the easiest schedule maybe in NFL history in the regular season. They get the Chargers with no tackles. They get the Texans with no Nico Collins. They get the Broncos with no quarterback. I mean, it is like Moses stepped in and just parted everything for them. So I can buy into the idea that Seattle rolls here. I don't think New England can blow out Seattle. I think if New England covers or it's a good game, it's a really low scoring game. But I think it's in the realm of possibility that the Seahawks put a hang one on the Patriots here.
I just hope, just from a fan's perspective, from an entertainment perspective, we want a good game. Last year was not a good game. We all remember, Will. I mean, how old are you, Will? Can I ask that on air?
I'm 44.
Okay, I'm 45. So we grew up.
I remember.
Yeah, they sucked. The games were not. It was all about the commercials.
Well,
I mean,
and I don't want to bring up bad San Diego memories, but like I remember. I'm at my parents' house because we were dodging the storm. I remember sitting in this very room watching the Niners Chargers Super Bowl that was just awesome. It was over by the first quarter, and we had that run of just great games. Yep. I think we're gonna look. I think we will gonna like. I don't think Mike Vrabel's getting blown out in the Super Bowl. This is a guy who said he would cut off his lower man regions for a Super Bowl title. I don't think it happens, but yeah, I mean, like it's definitely like if Sam Darnold plays the way that he played on Sunday night, I think it is definitely in the realm of possibility that Seattle rolls. But I mean, Drake Maye's a really good young quarterback too.
Yeah, no doubt. Will Brinson's our NFL insider is with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on what the Minnesota Vikings might be thinking right now as an organization, right? Did they offered maybe Darnold a year? He gets the multiple years, obviously, in Seattle. Again, we have the benefit of hindsight now, but what kind of look is this, in your opinion, for the Vikings on the other side of it?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, I do think that with Minnesota, when you went and got Sam Darnold as a free agent, you weren't thinking he's going to win us 14 games and we're going to sign because they went into the season thinking J.J. McCarthy would start and Sam Darnold would J.J. McCarthy would win the job and then Sam Darnold would be there as a backup and then Darnold took over and was great. So it was a tough spot for them. Now I think that NFL teams in general probably need to be more aggressive and more more objective when it comes to making quarterback decisions. For instance, you could have said, all right, yeah, we've got JJ on this, low salary cap number. He's on his rookie deal. We have to see what he's got. We use a first round pick on him. But you also could have been like, you know what? Sam Darnold's awesome. And he's working great in this system. He's a former number 3 overall pick. Screw it. Let's just sign him to a big contract and just run this back again next year. And if they've done that, they're probably a playoff team. And Seattle's definitely not in the Super Bowl because they're still sitting with Geno Smith. So, I think it was one of those where there are confirmation bias to a degree. Also, you sort of like, you're trying to make the math work and the analytics say roll with a rookie. So I get it. Maybe J.J. McCarthy gets there, but yeah, I mean, if you're Minnesota, you should have just paid Sam Darnold and kept both guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, it's so easy. Like I do this all the time in all sports. It's like, well, what if? Well, I mean, again, we're doing it with the benefit of knowing what plays out along the way. What do you make of the news just around the league right now? Again, the Bills head coaching vacancy. I haven't followed this overly closely, just that Rivers interviewed and then today he withdrew. What's the reasoning behind or the belief behind Philip Rivers no longer being considered or taking his name out of the process?
I'm not going to make the joke I made on social media about Philip Rivers deciding not to return. Right. He pulled his name out of the Bills job. I'll just leave it there. But I will say that with Rivers, I get the sense that there's a chance Buffalo knows who it wants to go and get. Okay. And that person might be on one of the staffs of New England or Seattle. I mean, maybe it's like Clint Kubiak. We'll see. It could very well be Davis Webb, who they're interviewing with. They interviewed today, the really highly thought of former, I think, second-round pick, or maybe later, maybe third-round, but who Sean Payton hired after one interview. And if Sean Payton hires you after one interview, it's a pretty good sign. So I think there's a chance it's Davis Webb, maybe it's Clint Kubiak. We'll see. But you watch Mike McDaniel pull his name out of the interview list. See Philip Rivers pull his name out, and that leads you to believe the Bills maybe were talking to these guys about other positions. And I think for Philip too, he's got Gunnar, his oldest son, is going to be a senior in high school. And, Phil's probably maybe last chance unless Gunnar goes into state and Phil comes home and coaches him, which is obviously my dream. Right. But, maybe his last chance to coach him. So I would anticipate, I think right now it just doesn't make a lot of sense for Philip to try to make that move to Buffalo, from Southern, Alabama, with all of his kids, with his son in high school. And I think family, as anybody who, followed the Chargers for years knows, family is the thing for Phil. And so I would anticipate that, like, he knows he can get a job down the road. But this one right now, as good as an opportunity as it would be to coach Josh Allen, maybe not the one for him, given his family circumstances.
Another just coaching move. This is, the OC with the Chargers officially hiring Mike McDaniel. This seems on its face to be a massive win for the Chargers, right? Like he was clearly sought after by a number of teams. He ends up in LA. What type of marriage is this going to be with Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel? What's this going to mean for Justin Herbert?
Well, it's a funky one. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is a nut job. Mike McDaniel's a nut job too. But they're nut jobs in different ways. I think Mike McDaniel will. So the Chargers, look, Greg Roman, I think did a good job with the Chargers offense, and Greg Roman's done a great job with Jim Harbaugh's offenses in the past. But the Chargers, do lack a little bit of kind of creativity, or did lack a little bit of creativity with the offense. Just in terms of like what they can dial up, and Mike McDaniel will change that. I think like you can expect a monster year from Ladd McConkey. That Ladd's not Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, but he's a guy that Mike McDaniel will move around, get the most out of him. I think you'll see explosive plays from Quentin Johnson. You'll see a great run game. Mike McDaniel's a great coach. The Dolphins thing, he made Tua look pretty good for a long time, and I think he'll make Justin Herbert look even better. So I think it's a huge win for the Chargers to get him in town on the staff and to see what he can cook up, especially if this offensive line is healthy going into next year.
Final one, again, this is revisionist a little bit, but Sean Payton's decision there, up 7-0. Obviously, we know how it ends with New England winning the game. What did you think of it in real time? And I mean, with the benefit, again, that might have been the difference between winning and losing the game, right?
Yeah, for sure. And look, in real time, I was like, I think Sean Payton's probably going to go for this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is, whether he should go or not go. Seth Wickersham has a good article on ESPN today where he was with Payton after the game, where Payton basically said, I had one run play, I had one pass play. I called the pass play, and they lined up in a defensive formation and a defensive alignment that we hadn't seen, and that was basically the nuts for stopping. It's like a full house. It's like you got two pairs, you're going up against a full house, like it's over. So I think like that part of it is a little hindsighty. I do think if we saw the CBS broadcast do the sort of static image timeline of the field and like the conditions and what happened. I think that if you had told Sean Payton, like if he'd known that the weather was going to do that at some point in the afternoon, I don't think anybody knew, right? I mean, they came out of nowhere. I think if he'd known that at the time, he probably would have kicked there. But, at his point too, I think he told Seth this, was like, I wanted 14-0. And he's not wrong. If you make it if you get that fourth down, you make it 14-0 that early, the game's not over, but you were putting yourself in a really good position to go to the Super Bowl. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm not going to, denounce any criticism of it just because if he kicked it, the game maybe ends differently.
Football. We've said it a lot. I mean, that's
exactly.
that is football, and that is sports, and specifically the NFL. So the margins are so thin. We're talking about a play determining winning and losing in football. I mean, that's constantly been the case. You could argue the same thing in the Rams Seahawks game, right? With a muff kick.
Yeah, well, exactly. You got like two guys named Sean who go for it on fourth down in key spots and don't get it, and they're ripped the next day. And it's like, if they both get it, it's like, look at these grand geniuses who knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, 100%. Will, appreciate you doing it. Let's do it again. Hopefully we can catch up again next week as we get ready for the Super Bowl.
We'll do it next week.
Great stuff. All right, we're going to react to that. Plus, more on Phillip Rivers electing not to pursue the Bills head coaching gig. Plus, if you missed our conversation with Kevin Acee about the future for Yu Darvish, you're going to hear that coming up at 5 p.m. Really insightful conversation on Darvish and his future. Stay with us. Plus, we have Seals tickets to give away. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, we all remember that one teacher who made a difference, who believed in us, who challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you to Big Way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate outstanding public school teachers gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Today's teacher of the day, Elizabeth Lippett, who teaches at Empresa Elementary. Folks told us she gives an incredible amount of love and attention to each of her students. She makes sure their needs are always met. Congrats to Elizabeth. You're in the running to win $5,000 for your classroom. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. Did you spend any time? We'll get to Phillip Rivers withdrawing from this coaching search. I saw Will Brinson's tweet, by the way, and it was funny about.
Is what I figured it was.
What you thought it would be about Rivers. You can check it out at Will Brinson's Twitter page. Did you watch any of the free climb from, is it Alex Honnold or whatever his last name is? Who climbed the 100+ story skyscraper in Taipei?
I did not. I was aware of it, but I didn't watch it.
So apparently I was traveling back from Vegas following San Diego State UNLV. My wife told me my 6-year-old son Jones was enamored by it. How could you not be?
It's like real life Spider-Man.
It's like, what? So, I mean, this is the classic example. People love daredevil stunts. Go back to us as kids watching
Evel Knievel,
and you're with the motorcycles or whatever else, or trapeze artists. People have always loved this, going back 100+ years. This is like, it's the perfect thing to put on something. Everyone gets captivated by something like that, right? Because of the fear of the unknown. Is this going to be the time that he falls off the side of a skyscraper?
Well, Netflix has done stuff like this before, because they did something where I want to say there was like a motocross guy a year or two ago, like jumped over a skyscraper, or he rode off of it and like went down the ramp or something like that. And I think the one year they slingshotted like a skateboarder across like some like huge chasm. So Netflix has done stuff like this. So this isn't out of their realm of weird things, but it's kind of like what we always bring up. Like, Netflix doesn't want the NFL every week. They just want events.
They love
things.
Events.
Yes.
They love events.
Give us, event basketball. Give us
home run derby.
Exactly. We don't want the regular stuff. We just want event stuff.
No, I will say this. So he climbs, it was called Taipei 101, and it's 1,667 feet. So we're way up. Okay. Like, I want to say the One World Trade, right? After the World Trade Center is the current World Trade Center in New York is something like 1,776 feet for purpose, right? Like, so 1,667 is way up there. He did this in 90 minutes and took stoppages to like talk to like commentators on his way up. So it's impressive to me. And then I saw a video on social media of people trying to like copycat his climb. And it's like hilarious because dudes can't even get to like the second story, like trying to jump on this building. So, and he also said today, is in the New York Post, that he was paid an embarrassingly small amount to do the climb. But I mean, I can only imagine what it means for like your profile to do something like that.
I think it's hilarious that, he could die and he's climbing up this building, but he's still doing interviews while he's climbing. But we'll sit here and watch the Major League Baseball All-Star game and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're interviewing Freddie Freeman while he's playing first base. He could get hurt.
This guy literally had no harness.
Yeah, and he's like not worried about it at all.
That's the end. I do wonder, when you're doing an event like that, if you're Netflix, or
they were on a delay. I guarantee
that's what I was.
I guarantee it.
Like it's not like commercial broadcast.
Well, it doesn't matter that it would. It's too close to film stuff. There was a delay.
A long delay then, maybe like 30+ seconds in case
I would
something
say
happens.
so.
I would
yes.
think so too. Yes. There's no way you have like a 1 second delay.
Yeah, even with Netflix, they can't, because that's like stuff
crashing to
stuff.
Death.
Yeah, because one of the news channels got in trouble. I used to be, when I started radio, I ran the board for lots of like news talk stuff. So I would watch the one news channel would do police chases all the time. And the one police chase, they got their feeds mixed up. They thought that the live feed was the taped one, and they got them mixed up.
And they showed like a bad ending.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. The guy ended up in an empty field and he ended his life.
Oh my God. And this was on television?
Live on the news because they had the wrong thing. And as soon as it happened, the news guy is like, cut it. And then they told him, like, that was the live feed. And they couldn't cut it. And then they just went to commercial instantly. They had to issue apologies. And that was the end of police chases on that news network. They don't do it anymore. So I guarantee you they were on, most networks will have a minute and delay just for basketball in case they curse. Then they probably with a situation where someone could highly die. They were probably on a minute delay at least.
What does it say about us just like as people? This is like a humanistic thing. People are tuning in basically under the premise that, well, you never know. Guy might fall off the side of the building. Isn't that basically why people are watching?
Yeah, but that goes back to like, you go to the circus, people like the lion. Well, yeah, the lion thing, but people like the trapeze artists because they're swinging around and it's just amazing that they don't fall. And I think this is kind of the same way that they're just amazed that he can do this and just not fall.
Anyway, the story we were going to touch on, and we can briefly, is just Phillip Rivers withdrawing. The part that's not surprising to me is that he's not the next head coach of the Bills. We talked about that last week.
He's withdrawing to climb a giant skyscraper. He was motivated by that guy.
I don't think it means he's not going to be coaching at some point in the NFL. He could be, he could be a future head coach. I thought Will Brinson made the interesting point. He's got a senior in high school that he's coaching. So, he's got time. He's only 44. So he's got time to coach if he wants to coach.
I think part of it with him too is he was in the league for so long to where, you just retired. You just got to start spending, serious quality time with your family.
Yeah, you really want to do this?
Yeah, and now all of a sudden you're just going to just jump on the plane and just go, sorry, bud, I know it's your senior year, but I'm going to go back to the NFL. It's just like I can't see him doing that right away. Maybe in a year or two.
I can see in the future.
More of his kids get older. He's got so many of them. I don't know how many of them like the age range for like, him to
17, 18,
worry about that.
Young, right?
But it's a wide range. But I just don't think that he would want to just, come home to his family and then just bolt. No, I guess pun intended, bolt right away to not be with his family. Yeah.
All right. We're going to hear from Kevin Acee on the other side. He published an article this weekend about Yu Darvish and his future. Is he retiring or not? The devil is in the details. Great conversation with our Padres insider, Kevin Acee. You'll hear it next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Discover. The Seahawks open up as favorites over the Patriots for Super Bowl 60. Seattle opened up as a 3.5-point favorite before quickly jumping up to a 4.5-point favorite, according to DraftKings. If the Patriots do close as underdogs, it will break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they've been the favorite. The Patriots and the Seahawks both entered the season at plus 6,000 odds to make the Super Bowl. In other NFL news, Phillip Rivers withdrew his name from consideration today to be the Bills' next head coach, and the Chargers hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel as the team's new offensive coordinator. Guess what? Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/credit card.
All right, back with you. Final hour here on San Diego Sports 760. We keep promising you San Diego Seals tickets. We'll give them away this hour. But if you missed our conversation earlier with Kevin Acee, really insightful on Yu Darvish's future, what it means for the Padres. We started it by thanking Kevin and welcoming him back for 2026.
Yeah, good to make a January appearance, and I'm glad I'm back for another year with you and whoever.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Me and whoever. I'm calling it John and TBD right now. Okay, so let's start with your reporting over the weekend with Yu Darvish. And I think the way you worded it is correct, where you never said he has retired or he has walked away yet from the money, but poised or intending to do that. So what is the latest again with Yu Darvish, where he is, what now Darvish, his agent, and the Players Union are saying? Where are we in this saga?
Yeah, look, the overall gist of the story was 100% accurate. But before, we get into that and, whatever you want to talk about, I want to acknowledge, I should not have I shouldn't have used the word retired. And I shouldn't have definitively said that he was done. I should have made the story what the story is, which was after the first couple sentences, Yu Darvish is walking away from the final 3 years on his contract. Whatever form that looks like, is it the full amount? Is it a buyout? Is it something of a restructuring? I haven't talked to anyone over the course of months, and including up to yesterday, that knows what that will look like. The union weighs in. Yu has sort of vacillated. I was monitoring this story for months, and Yu has was close to writing it a few times, and Yu is not ready. And I knew better. I knew that while Yu is walking away, he is not ready to say that he is retired. He could come back and play on a minor league contract after this. He could play for the Padres. He could play for someone else. I shouldn't say he doesn't want to play right now. He's not ready to think about playing right now, and he does not feel that he should take this money from the Padres over this time. But I knew from conversations with Yu Darvish and others that Yu has held out the possibility, if not even a likelihood, that he would want to pitch again, whether he can or not. And so while other people around him are saying, using, or I should say, around the Padres, around the league, using the word retired, that's something I knew that Yu Darvish would not use. And so, I let Yu down, and then, I'm bummed that because of that sort of discrepancy, that then let the readers down, because it gave them a reason to doubt the accuracy of the story. And look, the story was accurate. Yu is walking away from his contract.
Well, that's really good insight, and I appreciate you sharing that with our listeners, because I think that's very insightful. Kevin Acee is our Padres Insider. He's with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I guess, and maybe to your point, and this is how I've always thought about it, it does sound like we've reached the point, though, of a little bit, to your point, where it's almost like semantics. And to some extent, he's going to walk away from a portion of these remaining dollars. We'll see the exact amount. Maybe it's a large total. I guess once this is finalized and maybe the Padres are able to free up some of this money, I guess, what does it say about Yu Darvish that he was or is willing to do such a thing? He's not forced to do that, but he is, it sounds like, willing to do something that ultimately is going to benefit the Padres organization, which I think he holds in high esteem, specifically his relationship with Peter Seidler over the years.
Right. And that really should have been, I mean, I'm not going to make excuses about why I used that word and when I shouldn't have and all that, but that really should have been the focus of the story. And I was sort of, whatever, trying to wrangle in there that, like honoring you and how good of a career he's had when really, gosh, that is the story, right? Like the Padres are going to realize the savings. And by the way, like they've essentially budgeted for some sort of windfall, for lack of a better word, from Yu Darvish walking away. Like they're like counting on it, even though they couldn't or weren't counting on it. Like officially, it was like, no, we're going to have this money because Yu Darvish has made it clear in the course of months-long conversations, and as a matter of fact, even longer than that, to some extent with the Padres, that he's not going to take money that he doesn't earn, right? Even though he is, let's make it clear, 100% entitled to this money. Sure. And that would be part of the issue, right? Like the union, whose job it is to fight for players and future players and not let precedents be set, are going, whoa, you can't walk away from this money. So it says a lot about Yu Darvish. And remember that he didn't take that money when he voluntarily went on the restricted list in 2024 while dealing with a personal issue. So it's really not all that surprising. But this is the person, the man that Yu Darvish is. It's a pretty darn big deal. And that's something I've been sort of kicking myself, and I kick myself a lot. I think that's how you get better. But I was kicking myself over the last couple of days of, dang it, that just should have been the story, that Yu Darvish is doing this. Like Joe Musgrove said yesterday, and Joe would not, someone asked him about Yu Darvish being around next year, and Joe wouldn't get into like what he expects from Yu Darvish or whatever, talked about how much he respected him. And then he just talked about how incredible it was what he's doing. So he didn't say exactly what he's doing, but like he said, he talked about it. Like it's, pretty remarkable what Yu is going to do.
It's funny you say that. Kevin Acee is with us right now. There's times I call a game, Kevin, and I'm sure you're like this as a writer. I call a game and then I read some of the reporting on it, whether it's in the Union Tribune from Mark, and like, I missed that angle entirely. You know what I mean? Like you were right there, but sometimes you kind of, for whatever reason, you go down one avenue where you're like, you know what, maybe I should have pursued another. You mentioned Joe Musgrove. I know you were there yesterday, I think at the Miracle League event with the Padres, when Musgrove spoke about where he is right now. What are the expectations here? He's going to be without restriction, right? But that doesn't mean there won't be a level of cautiousness coming off Tommy John, I guess, heading into 2026.
Right. Speaking of semantics, right? Without restriction, but then there could be some caution, which could be the form of early in the season, not so many pitches, or up and down, meaning like number of innings. Could be middle of the season as they monitor, his mechanics and see where he's at. So that he's available for the end of the year. They expect, look, he's 33 years old. He had a number of, full campaigns before he had Tommy John surgery. He's a guy who's built up, who got himself to a point where he conceivably could have pitched at the end of October, had a normal off season, and they're going into, he's full go in spring. That doesn't mean, as like you pointed out, they won't be careful with him. They will be careful with him. But the expectation is that he gives them a solid number of innings. And maybe that's not the 181 innings he had in both 2022 and 23, but maybe it's 150. And I'm not ruling out, more than that from Joe Musgrove. And the one thing that we should, if you're rooting for the Padres or writing about them, that we need to keep in mind as we go in this and we anticipate what Joe Musgrove is going to do is, like, when that guy's on the mound, like, what was it? Was it like 36 starts total, 2023 and 24, various injuries, and then obviously battling the elbow right to the end and into the postseason in 24 while he's out there. So that's 36 starts over 2 seasons. But while he's out there, almost 5 2/3 innings a start, and that's with a number of short starts and a 3.4 something ERA. Like, when Joe Musgrove's on the mound, he finds a way to be an effective starter.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And they will need him, to your point. But again, I think it's there's a fine line here. They don't have to have him throwing 7 innings and 103 pitches April 14th, right? There's a long arc to the 2026 season. Kevin Acee is with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but back to Darvish. Would you expect that it would be resolved, some of the financial topics that we're discussing, at some point sooner rather than later, because it impacts the Padres spend in 2026? Like, is that what you would expect? Because if this gets resolved, it allows the Padres to potentially allocate some dollars elsewhere for right now?
Yes. And I don't know the exact or even really approximate timeline, other than the season is coming up in whatever it is, 2 months. But like I said, been monitoring this for almost the whole off season. And on Saturday, when I had no interest, where I was, I had no interest in working Saturday. Yeah. I was assured that, okay, now it's, we know we're positive that this is a go. Like, whatever that form is, Yu Darvish will be making a decision that gives the Padres back some money, both for this year and affecting their spending ability, whether it's a 1-year contract, multi-year contract, and they intend to use that money to make the team better. So, my point on that is, after all this time, Saturday is when it was clear that some sort of resolution is imminent, and it will involve Yu Darvish walking away from the full amount, whether that's some sort of buyout or whatever they do to resolve this. Because I'm not saying this is unprecedented, but this is, Yu Darvish is a unicorn, and we already addressed that. Like, I don't think the union needs to worry about Yu Darvish walking away from $40-something million being a precedent, because I don't know how many players are going to do that in the future.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And again, from the Padres' perspective, these are dollars that could certainly impact their ability to compete and contend, obviously, in 2026. So a significant story moving forward. This is, speaking of an all off-season story that's a little bit evergreen right now in San Diego, just do you have any feel for the latest on AJ Preller's future? He's under contract, obviously. The Padres had indicated publicly, I think at some point this offseason, they do desire to extend him, but the extension hasn't been reached, at least in terms of being announced publicly. Would you expect resolution on AJ Preller's future with spring training getting underway in a couple of weeks?
I wouldn't be surprised. I know I have some idea of where these talks are at. A little bit of an impasse. There's a lot going on with the team. AJ Preller is a commodity that has some, he's got some negotiating power, and I don't think he's just going to take anything from the Padres. So maybe it's a little more, I know this, it's a little bit more difficult than they anticipated getting it done, but that doesn't mean it won't get done. My understanding is that they expect it to. Now, hey, like I said, AJ Preller, man, for whatever, there's not a lot of guys who've done what he's done, and there are people in the league that are like, this guy could, give this guy some resources and watch him go. And so there is a little leverage there for AJ Preller.
Final one, Kevin, would just be on the team, and I think that the way they phrased it was they've been exploring the sale. Is that just going to play out in the background? Like, what's a timeline there? Because even exploring a sale doesn't mean they'll be sold. Would you expect something in 2026 about whether they pull the team, off the market or intend to sell it? Is that a story that you would expect to be finalized in 2026? Yeah,
I would say, gosh, there's many people that believe first half of 26 or forget it, because, what owner's going to walk into potential lockout?
Right.
That is knowledgeable speculation by people, but that's not coming from any potential buyer. So who knows? I'm just saying that's something that knowledgeable people are talking about. And so I do know that, look, this is a process, multi-billion-dollar process, and people are looking at the books. There are potential buyers, serious buyers, but the reason I'm hemming and hawing and even going over my mind right now about naming names I've heard is I've also heard from people that it's dragging and it's not going as fast as maybe some expected it to. So, again, it's been the off season. I expect this in terms of both my interest and everybody's interest, as we're all around the team again every day for 8 months, that it'll pick up. And yes, it's a huge story that sort of looms over the Padres. But I say it's a huge story because it is, obviously. Who's going to own the team? What kind of resources will that person have? Whether it's the Seidler family et al. Still, or it's some new person. That said, really don't think the players could care. And they have the team they have. It's not going to be that much different. They will obviously make a couple signings or trade whatever here right before spring training or during spring training. But, the core is there, and that's the team for 2026. But, yeah, for the future of this team, it's a gigantic story.
You know what? I said final question, but I'll open this can of worms about ownership. Is there, this is just asking for your opinion. Would it be possible that Sheil Seidler would be a part of a new ownership group with the
Zero
Padres?
chance.
Okay. Zero chance.
And I probably just opened a can of worms there where you've got 10 more questions, but I know you don't have time, so I'll see you later. No, no, there just isn't. Look, Peter Seidler didn't have as much money as people thought. Some people thought. More people than I'm actually comfortable with actually thought that he was a billionaire. Sheil Seidler certainly does not have that money. And, she wasn't the control person. MLB did not think she should be the control person. I don't see any reason why she would want to be a part of a different ownership group. So I would say that, 0% chance if the team is sold that Sheil Seidler would be a part of that ownership group, certainly in any significant way.
Sure. Kevin, love the insight and the perspective and appreciate your reporting. And again, you sharing your time with our listeners. So excited to have you back in 2026. We'll catch up again at some point in the next couple of weeks. Safe travels. And thanks again.
Take care, John.
All right, great stuff that we'll react to on the other side from our Padres insider, Kevin Acee. Plus, we have San Diego Seals tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, we have those San Diego Seals tickets. We'll give those away in 5 minutes. Seals taking on, let's see, Heroes Night. It's coming up on January 30th. That's Friday night at Pechanga. So Seals Friday night at Pechanga. It is Heroes Night. We have 2 free tickets we'll give away in 5 minutes. So be listening for that. It's the Seals against Jim's Philadelphia Wings. All right. So San Diego Seals and Jim's Philadelphia Wings coming up Friday night at Pechanga. I found that conversation with Kevin Acee to be really insightful about, again, Yu Darvish's future, AJ Preller's future, the future ownership of the San Diego Padres. I think first and foremost, it's about, can they get financial relief on the Darvish deal? It sounds like the answer is yes, although it hasn't been resolved. It needs to be resolved. Why? Padres need the flexibility with their payroll in 2026. They need probably that spending in order to add to the rotation. Like Yu Darvish is owed something like $15 million next year. No buyout has been negotiated. No contract has yet been voided. But imagine what they can do with that money right now. Like they still need someone in the rotation. They've been rumored to be, interested in like a mid-tier starter in terms of spend, $8, $10, $12 million per year. I don't know if that's with the Darvish money or without it. I mean, if you have the Darvish money, which is 15 this upcoming year, and you still have another 8 or 10 or 12 to spend, now all of a sudden you got money to work with. Now you got $25+ million to work with as you head towards 2026. Either way, it would be significant if they could get the 15 back roughly and spend it, because it just seemingly feels like the roster isn't complete without a free agent addition, or maybe there's some type of trade that they could make. So we wait on that. But that's a big story, whether Darvish will officially retire or if his contract will be voided. Beyond that, AJ Preller's future is a huge story. And Kevin used the word, impasse in there. Is there a little bit of an impasse? And speculated the same way I have about the leverage that AJ Preller now potentially holds over the organization. So again, if you're the San Diego Padres, you want to get this resolved sooner rather than later. The longer this drags on, all of a sudden Preller's becoming a free agent in 2026. So you got open-ended questions. Darvish's future, Preller's future, organization's future from an ownership perspective. I just hope we get some answers, Brent, in the days ahead with pitchers and catchers probably reporting in the next 15 or so days.
I joked last week that, they would want to get this done before pitchers and catchers report here in a couple weeks, just so they don't have to answer with a non-answer every single day while you're out at spring training. And it kind of sounds like that's sort of coming to fruition when you listen to kind of how snippy Grupner got when Marty asked him the question again.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
Talks continue. Nothing new. Same comment that has been made multiple times before. Yeah. Thanks.
It's mild, but I mean, that doesn't sound overly promising.
No, but it's one of those things where it's like, nope, like it's the same answer that I gave you the last time and the time before that. And it's just that, like, stop asking me.
That to me is a ball in someone else's court answer.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like he's almost upset. He's like, listen, we did our part. We've offered him a contract. Maybe we've offered him a second contract. He hasn't agreed to it as of yet. And there has to be a reason as to why. So, I mean, again, Preller knows that he holds the chips, the cards. He's got a little bit of leverage here. So, I'm sure the organization would love for him to sign it, but I'm sure AJ Preller's thinking, well, the longer this drags on, I'll probably have some options. So either sweeten the deal, or I'm going to potentially see this out longer than I have. And this has been like a 3-month saga at this point.
I'm surprised that if that is the way it played out, to where they did give him, 1 or 2 offers and he's just not responding and just not signing them. I wonder if how much longer until the Padres front office just tells everyone, it's like, hey, you can keep asking us. We presented him with the contract.
Yeah, ask him.
The ball's in his court. I know it's wrong, sports analogy, but the ball's in his court now. So, everyone's thinking that, we're waiting on us. Like, no, we did our part. It's all up to him now, just to kind of, in a way, make him look like the bad guy and not so much them.
Well, Preller knows in 15, 20 days, he's getting asked about this point blank. So if it gets signed, he's not. If it doesn't get signed, this is the second question somewhere in there with a follow-up or two when AJ Preller speaks with the media in mid-February. All right, call right now if you want 2 free tickets to see the San Diego Seals for Heroes Night this Friday at Pechanga Arena, indoor lacrosse in San Diego. If you've never been, you need to go. It's a terrific experience. Tickets and information at sealslax.com. That's sealslax.com. Caller 5, you have 2 free tickets. 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. Again, we're reacting to the Super Bowl matchup. We'll hear from Joe Musgrove as well on his anticipation for the upcoming 2026 season. Here until 6 p.m. Call right now if you want those Seals tickets. 877-767-4760. We have 2 free tickets to see the San Diego Seals this Friday night at Pechanga Arena. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Staples. The Seahawks opened as favorites over the New England for Super Bowl 60. Seattle opened as a 3.5-point favorite before quickly jumping up to 4.5, according to DraftKings. Assuming that the Patriots do close as underdogs, it will break a streak of 8 consecutive Super Bowls in which they have been favored. They have been the favorite. New England and Seattle both entered the season with plus 6,000 odds to reach the Super Bowl. In other NFL news and notes, Phillip Rivers pulled his name from consideration to be the Bills' next head coach, and the Chargers hired former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, to be the team's new offensive coordinator. It's a new year and Staples has fresh deals to get you fully equipped for 2026, like up to $120 off HP Smart Tank printers. This deal means business, and so do those printers. Shop in store and online today. Staples, that was easy. Ends January 31st.
All right, back with you on San Diego Sports 760. This is hard to believe. 6 years ago today, the tragic passing of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, 7 others passing way too soon in that tragedy, that helicopter crash, which was, again, 6 years ago to the day. So January 26th, 2020, weeks before the global pandemic. I think it's one of those moments, and probably even more so for people in Southern California with the Lakers affinity, obviously. One of those moments, by and large, people remember where they were. You know, just because I think if you're a sports fan, I think if you're listening to our voices right now, it's one of those things. If you're a sports fan, you remember where you were when this tragedy played out. And like a lot of things, Brent, with time, sometimes it feels like it was really recent, and other times like, wow, has that really been 6 years? I mean, 6 years. I wouldn't have thought it. I was at, it was 3 or 4 years, 4 years ago, something like that. It was 6 years ago today. I want to say you and I were right here.
Oh, yeah. I was right out of the newsroom sitting next to Hartman.
Too. Was Hartman here? Because
yes.
The Aztecs were playing UNLV that day. Were they not? On a weekend game? I'm pretty sure you were sitting next to me. I don't think you were sitting next. Now, we spent the next 3 days, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, obviously discussing it wall to wall.
I feel like he was, though, because I remember I was sitting out in the newsroom and somebody came out from in the studio and was like, did you just see? And we were like, shut up. And then when we all like jumped on Google and everything. We're like, oh my God.
No, because January, here's the thing. So I'm looking back right now. I could be wrong. I'm going to look. Did the Aztecs play at UNLV on January? They did. They played at UNLV at 1 p.m. Pacific. You were here to be studio director. It was a Saturday because he was going with his daughter and friends
to their basketball game,
which was on a weekend. So it was a weekend day because the Aztecs, again, as an aside for you and I, because I was doing pre-half post and you were studio directing, the Aztecs were, I want to say 20-0 that day. They went 30-2. There was then the pandemic that canceled the tournament. But they like found out like in pregame warmups in the hours leading up to this game, because this happened mid-late morning. This news is breaking, is the way I remember it on that day. But I'm looking right. Yeah, San Diego State would win that game and get to 21-0. But that news broke, and that story played out in the late morning or early morning of January 26th, 2020. It's just one of those things. It's just so sad, even with the benefit of time. You know what I mean? It's just, it really is. And again, for me, for you, for some of our listeners, maybe not for everyone, it really did. It was it was a tough day. It really was. It was really hard to grasp that story. And to some extent, honestly, it still is. It's like, man, young people, not just Kobe, obviously, his child and the others, unfortunately, just an absolute shame.
I think for us, because we're the same age, that it's probably close to the equivalent of when Roberto Clemente died. Because he also, he died in the plane crash, crash, going to
like humanitarian
aid and stuff like that, to where it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did.
And, just kind of the shock and just everything. That's kind of what I always feel like is it was just kind of similar, just because it both came out of nowhere. They're both, flight-based accidents and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it was 6 years ago.
It really doesn't.
No,
it doesn't. I mean, I've shared this a million times that, I just random through happenstance went to high school with him at the same time. I mean, he he was 2 years older than me. So he graduated from Lower Merion in 1996, and I graduated from Lower Merion in 1998, which means we overlapped for 2 years at Lower Merion. So like my story as, a fan, truthfully, or as like watching it all play out, dates back to getting to Lower Merion. I was entering my freshman year, and here's this like number one player in the class of 96. And you're like, is he really? This suburban school outside Philadelphia, this suburban school has the number one prospect. You're like, oh, that's a pretty phenomenal story. And then he has these amazing years as a junior and senior in high school. I'm still thinking, what college is he going to go to? Right? It's the 90s. Yeah, there were some guys that were making that leap. Later, LeBron, earlier Garnett. Right? So it was in that era where you had players making that leap. Of course, we haven't really seen it in recent history because of the current set of guidelines,
rules,
right? Where you have at least a year between high school and getting to the NBA. But I still thought as a kid, I'm like, he's going to end up at like Duke. And it ultimately came down to Duke, North Carolina, LaSalle, or the NBA. His dad was an assistant coach, Joe Jellybean, who played in the NBA at LaSalle. And I was like, yeah, I was, to put the full bow on, this was actually 30 years ago, basically now, probably the spring of 1996 is my guess, in the gym at Lower Merion, which has since been torn down and rebuilt as the Kobe Bryant Gymnasium while he was living. And he was there for the dedication when he was living. But in the old gym, and you've seen this on SportsCenter, if you just type in Kobe Bryant announces he's going to the NBA, he's wearing this like tan or brown suit. You've seen him in this suit if you looked it up. And in the high school gymnasium, he announced whether he was going to Duke, North Carolina, LaSalle, or the NBA. And I don't remember it like it was yesterday, but I remember it. I was there because it was like an assembly basically. And he's like, I'm going to the NBA. And I was like, what? How's that even possible from Lower Merion to get to the NBA? The rest, of course, is history. He gets drafted by Charlotte, draft day, trade, and becomes one of the most iconic players, obviously, in the history of the NBA and the LA Lakers. So just, again, there's certain news you never expect to get. And that's not the first and won't be the last, unfortunately, of something like that. But it's one of those things that I think if you're a sports fan, and not even just sports fans, certain things resonate with certain people. Listen, news happens every day. News happens every day. This is one of those things that just, I don't know. Like you said, it's like it'll resonate. You're going to remember where you were by and large. I think a lot of people will remember where they were by and large. Again, January 26th, 2020. What a wonky. I remember thinking, we said this in 2020. I remember around the air, like, this is going to be as big of a story as you're going to have in 2020. Now, maybe in sports it was. And then literally weeks later, we were like, couldn't leave our homes, because of the global pandemic. But it just kicked off what was a lot of 2020 I've kind of forgotten.
Yeah, because we're about a week away from, was it Rudy Gobert? Where they were like,
yeah, it was in February.
They ran out onto the middle of that Jazz game on the middle of the court and like pretty much canceled the game right there.
Right? Yeah. All the conference tournaments were getting canceled and all the professional sports were getting canceled. How are they? Are we ever going to have sports? Oh, it was such a crazy time, an absolutely crazy time. Again, we had a really good show, by the way, just in general today. Kevin Acee, if you missed it, check out sportssd.com later on because we'll have that for you. Will Brinson on the Super Bowl matchup earlier as well. Reese Dixon Waters join us tomorrow. Miles Bird is on the show. Miles Bird, San Diego State outstanding redshirt junior guard who had 23 points in that victory at UNLV. He's going to join us tomorrow. Aztecs have Colorado State on Wednesday. Another big game. The Aztecs are 8-1 in the Mountain West. That's first place by a game. Hoping to get to 9-1 come Wednesday. By the way, all of a sudden you look up. I'm getting another bracketologist on this week, Brad. All of a sudden you look up. San Diego State is appearing on a lot of brackets in that like 10 or 11 seed range, which means they have a lot of work to do, but they've positioned themselves now. I kept saying they were in position to be in position. They're now in that position where they've played their way into a lot of brackets. Now, how do they finish off this regular season? But to their credit, 8-1 in their first 9 in the Mountain West has put them, in contention.
I can't believe how fast this season's gone by.
I know, dude. It's late January.
Like before every game, like I have to create like a new folder and everything to put the highlights in. And it's like, and like this Wednesday's game will be game 20.
I know.
We only got 12 games left.
Correct. There's 11 regular season games.
Yeah.
And they'll play obviously the Mountain West tournament at a minimum. There's only 11 regular season games. They're guaranteed a 12th game, to your point, in the Mountain West tournament. But I'm with you. I mean, Mountain West tournament will be here before we know it. February is around the corner. And again, San Diego State is in position to be in position. I just go back to this. I want to say, are the Aztecs 15-4 right now? I think the Aztecs are 15-4. Let me quickly look that up. No, I'm sorry. They're 14-5. It's like the expectations are so high, and rightfully so, with all the winning around here. But like they've put themselves, again, in this spot where they've won 9 of 11 or something like that. And think about, one of the losses was to number 1 Arizona in Phoenix. The other loss was on a controversial call. Like those are their last 2 losses to number 1 Arizona in Phoenix. They haven't lost this year to anyone, including in the Big 12. They have a massive game tonight. BYU, Arizona, and Provo is a massive game that I'm going to be watching tonight.
That classic Big 12 rivalry.
Oh, yeah, between Arizona. But BYU's got the freshman phenom, and Arizona's undefeated, and they've got a great freshman class as well. But the last 2 Aztec losses are in Phoenix to Arizona, and controversially, in Phoenix to Grand Canyon. Their 2 losses in the last 11 or 12 games have been in Phoenix to Arizona and Grand Canyon. All right, we'll take a timeout. On the other side, we'll get to Brent's back page. We are here until 6 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, final time on San Diego Sports 760. A couple of programming notes. Tomorrow, Miles Byrd coming off one of the better games of his career for San Diego State, 7 of 8 from the field, 23 points, helped lead the Aztecs to a win at UNLV. He will join the show tomorrow at 3:30, so be here for that. Again, the next Aztec game is Wednesday night at 7:30. We'll have that for you against Colorado State here at home, VA House Arena. Pregame coverage will begin at 6:30. And we have a Brian Dutcher show for you this week on Thursday at 6 before the Aztecs go to Logan, Utah to take on Utah State. They have a morning start. So, Brian, set your alarm. You're up early these days.
Yeah, Peanut doesn't let me sleep in.
But 10 a.m. start Pacific is a 9 a.m. pregame Saturday. That's 11 a.m. local in Logan, Utah, Mountain Time. 10 a.m. Pacific, nationally televised game on CBS. Yeah, thankfully you have a dog, so you'll be here in time on Saturday. All right, let's get to it.
Well, we'll start with the one that you sent me this morning.
Yeah, what I send you?
I did do this for a back page last year, but last year during the Indianapolis 500, they did a Wienermobile race.
Yeah, I remember
with,
that.
the iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobiles. But it wasn't on broadcast television. It was on the Fox Sports app. It wasn't on
not actual
on TV. No, it was not on TV. But it was such a big hit last year that they are moving it off the app, and it will be on the Fox broadcast this year.
The Wienermobile race is on television this year. When is it? So when is this? Do we know?
It does not say.
Later this year.
Yes.
Okay.
It's during the Indianapolis 500.
Okay.
So, I think it's like a
Memorial
pregame
Day.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Memorial Day. Okay. I'll watch that.
Yeah, I watched it last year. It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I'll watch that. All right. So you can watch the Wienermobiles on television this year on Fox.
Yes. I don't see the date, but they'll probably release it once it gets closer.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got?
There was a weird story today involving MLB The Show.
I saw this. What is this for? Is this for hype?
For the first time, for the first time, MLB The Show is not going to have a cover athlete on this year's game.
No, they're not going to have a new cover athlete, I thought.
Well, I don't think it sounds like they're just not going to put an athlete on there. By new, they just mean like this year's game, and
so
not
what do
as
you got? Like a mascot?
I don't know. That's what they're wondering, because they issued they released a statement today that said, first off, San Diego Studios, we want to thank you, the MLB Show community, for your continued support and feedback. We know you're just excited as we are for the release of MLB The Show 26. So we wanted to let everyone know that this year we've decided that we will not have a new cover athlete. Please stay tuned to all of our social channels for more information. What I'm thinking is, when we've talked about this before, there's been such a transition into everyone downloading games these days instead of buying the physical copies. So you don't necessarily need a cover athlete, because they will change it. Because what they've done in years past is, when the game first came out, like the 1 year, Ellie De La Cruz was the cover athlete.
Yep.
So for a while, he was on the cover page, if you want to call it that, for like the digital download. But then halfway through the season, they changed it and they put like a different graphic in there. So I'm thinking that they're just going to kind of rotate it out, and they just don't want to pay a cover athlete.
I mean, it's got a lot of play today. When does this game typically come out, Brent?
Usually
March 1?
Usually about a month before opening day.
So, I mean, we're kind of getting close.
Yes.
I mean, so they're a month out from, but this game is still being released. This is a very popular game.
Oh, yeah.
They again, you mentioned San Diego Studios. It's produced
it's
here,
made right here, yeah.
which is pretty cool. I'm now very curious what this cover looks like, honestly.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, are they just going to put like just the MLB logo on there? Maybe the Super Bowl, not Super Bowl. That'd be a really weird cover. Weird. But yeah, just put like the World Series trophy
not
on
be
it.
Ohtani's dog or something.
Oh, God.
Right? Like, has Ohtani been on the cover of MLB The Show?
No.
Never?
No. Wait, yes, once.
No,
he was once.
So I don't know. I went down the path of we're not going to have a new cover athlete. So I was down the path of they're going to have an old cover athlete on it. But now I'm curious is the point. I'm really curious about what they're going to do. There's no way in his career he hasn't been the cover athlete, right? Guy's got multiple MVPs. He's won World Series.
He was in 2022.
Okay.
Because he was the year, because Tatis was 21. Ohtani was 22. Then they picked Jazz Chisholm Jr. in 23 because people threw a fit about that.
Yep.
And then Vlad Jr. was last year.
Yep. All right.
And then finally, do you like jelly beans, John?
Not particularly. My wife loves them, and Jones loves them.
That's pretty much what I figured your answer would be.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't like KFC because of the whole chicken thing, but KFC just in time for Easter has come out with KFC's Colonel's favorite jelly beans. And they're jelly beans that there's 3 flavors in a bag.
They taste like chicken?
Fried chicken, sweet corn, and gravy are the 3 flavors of jelly beans on the thing.
I would try that.
I would try it too because I love KFC. And somebody said on X, they're like, yeah, one of them is actually, they said they all kind of sound disgusting, but I guess one of them is awesome. Which one did you say it was?
Is it the chicken? Or is it sweet corn? Sounds good.
I guess gravy, is
That
actually pretty
sound that
decent.
good to me.
Yeah.
Gravy?
Well, I wonder if it's going to actually taste like gravy or if it's going to be like one of those, like candied watermelon doesn't taste anything like an actual watermelon, like if you get watermelon gum or something, it's got like the candy watermelon. So I'm wondering if it's going to really taste like gravy or if it's going to be kind of like a sweet.
But I love when you
gravy.
combine 2 jelly beans and then it tastes like the item. Like when you combine like the peanut butter and jelly beans and then it's a peanut butter and jelly. Like if you have all 3 of those at once, is like Willy Wonka, where it's like a TV dinner and there's 3 jelly beans and all of a sudden you're full. That's what I want.
I think all 3 of them are probably better than black jelly beans because
I can't.
Those are
I
just
would
disgusting.
Never touch those.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's like black licorice, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't do it.
You can get them now on Amazon, and they're supposed to appear in stores soon. It just says they don't have a release date for in stores, but I guess you can get them on Amazon.
Am I going to race out to the store to get it? No, but if it was right in front of me, would I try them? Yeah, absolutely. All right, good stuff.
Yeah, as long as they don't cost like $20 for a bag.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, good stuff with the back page. Again, we are back tomorrow right here on San Diego Sports 760 at 2 p.m. Miles Bird will be on the show tomorrow at 3:30. The Aztec redshirt junior guard as the Aztecs get ready for Colorado State. If you missed anything today, sportsst.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. For Sammy Long earlier and Brent Sperry right now, I'm John Schaefer. You've been listening to San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.